Chapter 690. Yan Chuan. Shinkuan Kuroha suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. Yan Chuan didn't come earlier or later. Why did he come at this time? The Great Winged Heaven School was at its most critical moment. Why did he come at this time? Great Jin Dynasty. 3 million soldiers. In the past, Shinkuan Kuroha wouldn't have cared about them, but now, Shinkuan Kuroha couldn't help but change his expression. However, even though Shinkuan Kuroha's expression was ugly, he didn't lose his composure. After all, the foundation of the Great Winged Heaven School wasn't something that the newly established Great Jin Dynasty could compare to. Shinkuan Kuroha shouted, and the people who were on the verge of a riot all turned their heads to look. Great Jin Dynasty. Many people revealed curious expressions. It wasn't that the cultivators didn't know about the Great Jin Dynasty. On the contrary, it was the Great Jin Dynasty that forced the Great Winged Heaven School to redivide its territory 15 years ago. The Great Winged Heaven School's territory was instantly reduced by half. Don't underestimate this small half, it left a deep impression on the people who didn't know. To be able to force the Great Winged Heaven School to shrink its territory, the Great Jin Dynasty must be incomparably powerful. There was also news that the 100 affiliated sects of the Great Winged Heaven School were all destroyed by the Great Jin Dynasty. This wasn't a secret at all. The Great Winged Heaven School couldn't even protect its own affiliated sects. The image of the Great Jin Dynasty was extremely important in the hearts of the people. Great Zhao Holy Ground, Holy Maiden Yushi. Immediately, someone recognized Mo Yushi, who was beside Yan Chuan. The surrounding people suddenly fell silent. If the people were unfamiliar with the Great Jin Dynasty, then the Great Zhao Holy Ground was no stranger. The Great Zhao Holy Ground was the #1 sect under the heavens. The Holy Maiden of the Great Zhao Holy Ground, just the title alone was enough to make everyone reveal a dignified expression. Emperor of Dezhen. What are you trying to do? Suddenly, a voice exploded. Shinkuan Kuroha was stunned. Because this angry rebuke did not come from the Great Winged Heaven School, but from the commoner in front of him, Huang Bing. When Huang Bing shouted, everyone was puzzled. Over 100 million people didn't have a leader. They were just filled with resentment. In every city, there was a group of people with high prestige. Since the opening of the city, Huang Bing had unknowingly gained a certain level of prestige. At this moment, Huang Bing shouted at Yan Chuan. Many people understood, but many people did not. The Great Winged Heaven School has gone against the tide. 15 years ago, we have already issued a proclamation to the world to avenge Heavenly Father. Yan Chuan shouted. Shinkuan Kuroha's eyes turned cold. Was Dezhen really here to fight the Great Winged Heaven School? Shinkuan Kuroha was about to explode in anger when the Huang soldier suddenly stepped in front of him. No way! Huang Bing shouted. Huang Bing's shout immediately stunned many people, including Shinkuan Kuroha. Their eyes were filled with confusion. The Great Winged Heaven School owes us spirit stones. If you destroy it, who are we going to ask for our spirit stones? Huang Bing shouted. Shinkuan Kuroha's face twitched. He didn't know if he was moved or angry. So, they were supporting the Great Winged Heaven School for the sake of their spirit stones. Countless commoners nodded. Yes, if you destroy the Great Winged Heaven School, who are we going to ask for our spirit stones? Most of the people had their concepts changed by Huang Bing's words. Originally, the commoners only thought that Dezhen was strong, but they might not be a match for the Great Winged Heaven School. However, after Huang Bing's shout, the commoners suddenly felt that Dezhen was a force that could destroy the Great Winged Heaven School. Chapter 691. Billions of Spirit Stones. How could he let the Great Jin Dynasty do as they pleased? Yan Chuan looked at Huang Bing with slight admiration, but he still pretended that he didn't know him. Spirit stones? The Great Winged Heaven School owes you spirit stones. Why didn't you get them? Yan Chuan asked curiously. Huang Bing was at a loss for words when he heard Yan Chuan's words. The people around them looked at Shinkuan Kuroha again. It was obvious that their anger from being interrupted by Yan Chuan had reignited. Shinkuan Kuroha, return my spirit stones. Someone in the crowd shouted. Shinkuan Kuroha's face turned ugly. He looked at Yan Chuan's army in the distance and said coldly, everyone, listen up. Wipe out the 3 million bandits on the other side. Once you're done, take the spirit stones. True Monarch Black Feather shouted. The people were stunned. Ha 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 ha, Shinkuan Kuroha, who are you trying to fool? Take out the spirit stones and we'll believe you. Huang Bing shouted. Shinkuan Kuroha's face froze as he looked coldly at Huang Bing. Shinkuan Kuroha, today, you must return the spirit stones that belong to us. Huang Bing shouted. Hand them over. Everyone shouted. The voices of the people were the most terrifying. There were more than 100 million people, and their aura caused the air around Shinkuan Kuroha to become turbulent. Shinkuan Kuroha's face turned gloomy. Huo Guang, commander of the Great Jin Dynasty's First Legion, challenges Shinkuan Kuroha. Huo Guang suddenly stepped forward. Shinkuan Kuroha looked at Huo Guang, who was holding a spear. Shinkuan Kuroha's face darkened when he saw Huo Guang. How dare a subject challenge me? Yan Chuan. You've gone too far. Shinkuan Kuroha shouted. My emperor said, Shinkuan Kuroha, if you can defeat me, De Zhen will immediately retreat. Huo Guang shouted. Shinkuan Kuroha looked puzzled. After defeating Huo Guang, De Zhen retreated? The interior of the Great Winged Heaven School was a mess. Shinkuan Kuroha really didn't want to fight at this moment. Once they fought with the Great Qin dynasty, the internal situation would definitely be exposed. Once exposed, this group of unruly people would destroy the Great Winged Heaven School. Huo Guang's challenge? Shinkuan Kuroha might not be afraid, but these unruly people. Shinkuan Kuroha, you want us to help you fight against De Zhen's army? That's impossible. If you want to fight, you have to fight on your own or return the spirit stones. Huang Bing shouted. Pointing spear at the world. Boom. Huo Guang did not wait for Shinkuan Kuroha's reply. A vast energy spear shot toward him. Boom. The energy spear shot toward Shinkuan Kuroha. You're courting death. Shinkuan Kuroha slashed with his sword. Boom. The sword and spear collided. The battle between the two of them began without rhyme or reason. The disciples of the Great Winged Heaven School looked at the sky in confusion. At the same time, they looked at the 100 million people warily. Boom. 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 The battle in the sky began. On the dragon platform, Yan Chuan rose to his feet. Everyone. Yan Chuan suddenly shouted. The people turned to look at Yan Chuan. Since the Great Jin dynasty dares to come here today, we're confident we can destroy the Great Winged Heaven School. I'm sure no one thinks that I, Yan Chuan, will come here to seek my own death, right? Yan Chuan said angrily. Many people nodded. The Great Winged Heaven School owes you spirit stones. Why don't you collect them yourself? I've captured a group of cultivators who escaped from the Great Winged Heaven School. I'm sure everyone knows that they escaped with a large number of spirit stones. Yan Chuan shouted. Every day, a large number of disciples from the Great Winged Heaven School escape with spirit stones. The longer the Great Winged Heaven School drags on, the fewer spirit stones there are. There won't be enough for everyone. Yan Chuan said. Chapter 692. As soon as Yan Chuan said that, the faces of countless people changed. The Great Winged Heaven School is about to be destroyed. I promise in the name of the Great Jin dynasty that you will follow us to the Great Winged Heaven School. Whatever you get will belong to you. Also, If you kill an Essence State Warrior, you will be rewarded with 25 Superior Grade Spirit Stones. If you kill an Chi State Warrior, you will be rewarded with 300 Superior Grade Spirit Stones. If you kill an Immortal State Warrior, you will be rewarded with 5,000 Superior Grade Spirit Stones. If you kill an Emptiness State Warrior, you will be rewarded with 100,000 Superior Grade Spirit Stones. Yan Chuan shouted. 100,000 Superior Grade Spirit Stones? For a moment, countless people's eyes were burning with desire. Yan Chuan, you are courting death. Shinkuan Kuroha roared in the sky. Shinkuan Kuroha couldn't do anything to Huoguang, and Huoguang couldn't kill him either. Emperor of the Great Jin Dynasty, are you lying? Huang Bing shouted. I can vouch for the Great Jin Dynasty. Mo Yushi suddenly shouted. With Mo Yushi's shout, Yan Chuan's words were officially confirmed. Suddenly, countless pairs of eyes turned red and looked at the disciples of the Great Winged Heaven School. A large number of disciples at the entrance of the school suddenly trembled. What are you doing? A disciple shouted. Hiss. Huang Bing suddenly drew his long sword and charged at the disciple. Zhang Shao, avenge your brother. Everyone, take back what belongs to us. Huang Bing shouted. Along with the Huang soldiers, a large number of commoners also made their move. As soon as the person at the front made a move, the people around him also attacked. Once they attacked, it was as if they had pledged their allegiance. There was no turning back. The people who attacked earlier suddenly turned their heads and shouted. Big brother, attack. Junior brother, attack. Second uncle, hurry up and attack. Rumble. The people began to kill crazily as they advanced toward the Great Winged Heaven School. Spirit stones, everything is for the sake of spirit stones. Shinkuan Kuroha roared angrily in the sky, bastard. Hurry up and get everyone out of seclusion. At this moment, the countless cultivators in the sect were stupefied. Nearly 200 million cultivators were charging over. The commoners were like bandits as they charged in and scattered in all directions. Everywhere they went, they left a mess. All sorts of magical treasures and decorations were plundered by the bandits. Some people even pulled out many of the decorative immortal herbs of the Great Winged Heaven School. Boom! 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 The remaining disciples of the Great Feather Heavenly Sect quickly bombarded one cave after another, bombarding the various secluded caves. Boom! A cave abode was disturbed and opened with a loud bang. Bastard, which blind thing dares to disturb this old man's seclusion? A white-robed old man rushed out angrily. However, as soon as the white-robed old man finished speaking, the white-robed old man suddenly revealed a look of surprise. In the distance, a black mass of cultivators poured into the Great Winged Heaven School like locusts. Everywhere they passed, not a single blade of grass was left alive. What's going on? Who can tell me what's going on? The white-robed old man exclaimed. Ah, that's spiritual master Shan Meng. 5 years ago, he just reached the lower emptiness realm. Huang Bing suddenly shouted. Lower emptiness realm? 100,000 high-grade spirit stones. Suddenly, a voice echoed in the air. Boom! Boom! A large number of cultivators immediately surrounded them. Bastard, what 100,000 high-grade spirit stones? Do you want to die? How dare you break into my Great Winged Heaven School? The white-robed old man roared angrily. Kill! Kill! Hundreds of cultivators did not care at all and directly charged forward. Kill! In all directions, the experts of the Great Winged Heaven School came out of seclusion one after another. However, in the eyes of the common people, mountains of spirit stones appeared one after another. Rob! The common people who had accumulated resentment for a long time seemed to have gone crazy at this moment. They swarmed into the Great Winged Heaven School like a swarm of bees. At the peak of a mountain in the distance, at this moment, 5 Middle Emptiness Realm experts who were invited by Yan Chuan looked at each other, their eyes filled with confusion. What? The common people of the Great Winged Heaven School have all gone crazy? How can this be? Do these common people really want to die? Everyone is like a bandit. The 5 people were stunned. Chapter 693. The Great Winged Heaven School. More and more people could not remain calm when they saw that some people had already, privately owned, a large number of Dharma treasures. More and more experts rushed to the Great Winged Heaven School. Once they entered the Great Winged Heaven School, it meant that they were completely on the side of the Great Jin dynasty. A group of immortal state commoners targeted the lower void stage cultivators because the cave abodes of every lower void stage cultivator had the most Dharma treasures, spirit pills, and secret manuals. At the same time, the head of a lower void stage cultivator was worth 100,000 superior grade spirit stones, which was 1 billion inferior grade spirit stones. A lower void stage cultivator was strong, but what about 100 immortal state cultivators? There were too many commoners. If the Great Winged Heaven School was at its peak, it would definitely be able to defeat them. However, most of the experts were in seclusion now, and only 1/3 of them were in seclusion. How could they deal with these ferocious commoners? Are they crazy? How is that possible? Is this the end of the world? How dare these commoners? How dare they? Bastard, how dare they? The cultivators of the Great Feather Heavenly Sect were shouting anxiously all around. A large number of commoners gathered outside a cave. Come, there's a cave abode that hasn't come out yet. Let's set up an array and kill him. Someone shouted. Okay. Those Shouja who had not come out of seclusion were killed by a group of common people in their muddle-headedness. On the dragon platform, Yan Chuan looked at the Great Winged Heaven School in the distance and the rolling merit clouds in the sky. Endless merit was surging at that moment. Nearly 200 million commoners rushed to the Great Winged Heaven School, and the endless merit was surging desperately. The virtuous clouds were slowly dispersing and dispersing, gradually decreasing in number. At the same time, in Yanjin, the Great Jin dynasty. Roar! The golden dragon of Providence roared at the sky. As it roared, the sea of Providence suddenly churned. Below Yanjin, Bai Ditian looked at the Providence clouds in the sky. Who? 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 Out of nowhere, beams of golden light gathered towards the Sea of Providence from all directions. The Sea of Providence grew bigger and bigger, and more Providence appeared. Supreme Being, Dejin's Providence is skyrocketing. A tiger demon exclaimed. Bai Ditian stared at the golden dragon of Providence. As the Providence continued to gather, the golden dragon of Providence became more and more corporeal and thick. The golden dragon of Dejin's Providence is becoming stronger. Bai Ditian's eyes lit up. Outside the Great Winged Heaven School. Bastard, bastard! Shinkuan Kuroha roared at the sky. On the other side, Guang seemed to become more and more courageous as the battle progressed. Enveloped by the will of the Alcade Star, Guang's strength skyrocketed. On the other hand, Shinkuan Kuroha had just broken through to the lower emptiness realm 20 years ago. It was hard to tell who was stronger. Great Winged Heaven School, Golden Crow Dharma Body. Shinkuan Kuroha roared with indignation. Wah! Above the sea of clouds of merit, the sound of a crow suddenly shook the sky. Dejin had the golden dragon of Providence, and the Great Winged Heaven School had the golden crow. The giant golden crow formed by the virtuous virtue suddenly flapped its wings and soared into the sky. Wah! The golden crow roared and charged towards Shinkuan Kuroha. Boom! The golden crow and Tao Lord Black Feather suddenly merged into one. The golden crow's eyes suddenly became lively, as if it had come alive in an instant. Rumble! A vast pressure rushed towards Guang. The huge aura forced Guang back more than 1,000 feet. Strong winds blew around. Shinko Kuroha, who had merged with the Golden Crow, glared at Huo Guang as if he wanted to tear Huo Guang apart. Chapter 694. Whoosh! Huo Guang stepped back and shot toward the 3 million soldiers of the Great Jin army. At this moment, the 3 million strong army had already begun to move, quickly forming a new formation. Qing Long, White Tiger, Rosefinch, Xuanwu, Rumble. The 3 million soldiers led by Qing Long and the other 3 formed the 4 symbols formation. Suddenly, the surroundings were filled with fog. Huo Guang rushed straight in, trying to escape. Humph! The Golden Crow roared angrily, spread its wings, and pounced into the formation. Rumble! The formation suddenly churned non-stop. The interior rumbled non-stop. The Golden Crow was trapped. It was Shinko Kuroha's first time mobilizing the Golden Crow, so he was not very familiar with it. Even so, he was invincible in the formation. Ah! Big brother! Screams came from the formation. Clearly, the Great Jin army did not have the upper hand in the formation. Should I help them? Mo Yushi asked worriedly. No need. Yan Chuan shook his head. He looked at the virtuous cloud sea. At this moment, without the Golden Crow's wings, the virtuous cloud sea's endless virtuous virtue was quickly draining away. Kill. Mine. Ha ha ha, that's a 7th grade artifact. The Great Winged Heaven School. Shouts of killing could be heard from all directions. Flames rose everywhere, and smoke rose into the sky. At this moment, the Great Winged Heaven School was completely defeated. Help! Bastard! A large number of Great Winged Heaven School disciples cried out in grief. Boom! At this moment, a mountain peak of the Great Winged Heaven School suddenly exploded. A ray of white light shot into the sky. A white-haired man dressed in white rushed out with a look of surprise in his eyes. Another one. Kill! Excited roars came from all directions. Don't! That's true monarch White Feather. Someone suddenly cried out in alarm. Humph! The white-haired man snorted coldly. Suddenly, a powerful aura pressed down. Poof! 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 The charging experts all spat out mouthfuls of blood as they stared at true monarch White Feather in shock. True Lord White Feather did not immediately save anyone. Instead, he looked around at the virtuous cloud sea in the sky and the trapped Golden Crow in the distance. True monarch White Feather narrowed his eyes. Impudent! Why aren't you stopping? True monarch White Feather shouted. Hong! The furious roar sounded like thunder from the 9 heavens descending from the sky, causing the expressions of countless cultivators to change. The huge commotion caused the souls of countless cultivators to tremble. The battle suddenly stopped. The might of his voice was so powerful. Old Sect Master, Old Sect Master. A large number of disciples of the Great Winged Heaven School looked towards true monarch White Feather with wild joy. Countless commoners were shocked. Too powerful. Is this the power of the Middle Void stage? Suppressing nearly 200 million cultivators with a single roar? Countless commoners were panicking. Previously, when Shinko Kuroha was trapped, they thought that the Great Winged Heaven School was done for. But true monarch White Feather was still there. Why was he still there? True monarch White Feather's strength was deeply ingrained in the hearts of the people. It was an irresistible force. Countless people suddenly felt regret. They should not have barged into the Great Winged Heaven School. They were all from the Great Jin dynasty. Almost everyone looked in the direction of Yan Chuan. It was all caused by Yan Chuan. Many people revealed worried and fearful expressions. Yan Chuan looked around, then looked at true monarch White Feather. Using his dermic powers, he shouted again, "My previous words still stand. I will personally deal with this true monarch White Feather." Chapter 695. Yan Chuan's words immediately calmed the hearts of the people. However, the people were still uneasy. Perfected Lord Whitefeather looked at Yan Chuan in the distance and narrowed his eyes. Old sect master, it's all Shinkun Kuroha's fault for causing our great winged heaven school to fall into its current state. Old sect master, it's great that you're still here. The great winged heaven school disciples found their backbone and were all excited. Who started this chaos? Perfected Lord Whitefeather's eyes turned cold. Him, Yan Chuan. Everyone quickly pointed out. Perfected Lord Whitefeather narrowed his eyes and stared at Yan Chuan in the distance. His eyes were extremely cold. In the distance, on a mountain peak, the 5 Middle Void Realm experts that Yan Chuan invited looked at each other. Oh. Perfected Lord Whitefeather. Does anyone want to make a move? A red-robed expert smiled. No need. Yan Chuan only invited us to deal with Perfected Lord Greatfeather. What does Perfected Lord Whitefeather have to do with us? Moreover, this Yan Chuan is always unpredictable. What else does he have to rely on? Another person said. Yes. Everyone nodded and ignored him. Yan Chuan. Perfected Lord Whitefeather shouted coldly, clearly having never heard of this name. Shinkun Kuroha, what a bastard. A deity realm expert can also mess up the great winged heaven school like this? After being someone else's dog, you're worse than a dog. Perfected Lord Whitefeather looked at the trapped golden crow in the distance and said coldly. In the distance, Yan Chuan's body suddenly shone with a red light, and his hair quickly turned blood red. It grew rapidly, and a monstrous evil intent surged out. Rumble. The ground under Yan Chuan's feet suddenly sank, turning into a torrential sea of blood. Yan Chuan's hair was long, and his eyes were bloodshot. The corners of his mouth curled up into a sinister smile. Waves of blood soared into the sky, surrounding Yan Chuan. In an instant, blood qi soared to the 9 heavens. Yan Chuan seemed to have transformed into a blood sea berserk demon, filled with raging devilish intent. Blood demon? The expressions of the people who had stopped talking suddenly changed. Someone recognized him. Around Yan Chuan, energy surged wildly as a surge of battle intent shot towards the distant True Lord Whitefeather. Oh! True Monarch Whitefeather's eyes narrowed. At this moment, Yan Chuan's strength skyrocketed. Blood Sea, Whitefeather, die! Yan Chuan shouted. He stepped on the waves of blood and soared into the sky. A sea of blood that covered an area of 50 kilometers surged towards the distant True Monarch Whitefeather. Wherever the sea of blood passed, the vegetation would wither. Yan Chuan wielded the Jade Emperor sword and charged towards True Monarch Whitefeather. Humph, you're courting death. Perfected Lord Whitefeather's eyes turned cold as she flew over on the wind. She extended her hand and suddenly, a huge palm print pressed down. The moment the Jade Emperor sword appeared, it suddenly emitted a black light. Boom! The palm print was suddenly shattered by the Jade Emperor sword. Jade Emperor sword formation. Rumble. Surging sword qi suddenly erupted like a huge hurricane. Endless sword qi surged out and enveloped Yan Chuan, Blood Sea, and True Monarch Whitefeather. When the people saw this scene, they immediately calmed down. Boom! Boom! Within the Blood Sea Jade Emperor sword formation, white light shone everywhere. Waves of impact seemed to want to shatter the sea of blood again and again. True Monarch Whitefeather, who was inside, was unusually fierce. Hum! Suddenly, a beam of light shot down from the sky. The beam of light shot straight towards the Jade Emperor sword formation. Suddenly, the Jade Emperor sword formation stabilized, and the huge sword formation immediately became firm. Star intent? You're just a deity. How can you have a star intent? True Monarch Whitefeather exclaimed from within the formation. Roar! There were even dragon roars coming from within the Blood Sea Jade Emperor Sword formation. On a mountain peak in the distance, 5 Middle Void Realm experts narrowed their eyes. It seems that we've underestimated Yan Chuan, the red-robed expert said in a deep voice. Star intent? This old man has also just found his natal star. Yan Chuan and that Huo Guang actually both have them? Another person exclaimed in surprise. Old Hong, their natal stars might not be suitable for them. There's no need to be envious. Everyone sighed. On the mountain of the Great Winged Heaven School, the leader of the group, Huang Bing, suddenly shouted, "True Monarch White Feather is under Yan Chuan's control. The Great Winged Heaven School is about to be destroyed. We've already offended the Great Winged Heaven School, and there's no way we can go back on our words. It's useless to regret it. Let's just destroy the Great Winged Heaven School and help Dezhen destroy the Great Winged Heaven School as soon as possible." Ha ha ha, those disciples of the Great Winged Heaven School who were hiding have all come out. The 100,000 superior grade spirit stones are mine. After a short period of calmness, the situation became chaotic again. Chapter 696. The Great Winged Heaven School was destroyed, rumble. After losing the Golden Crow Spear, the virtuous clouds of the Great Winged Heaven School started to disperse. Similarly, the Golden Crow was condensed from the virtuous clouds. As the virtuous clouds weakened, the Golden Crow's power also started to weaken. It was like a vicious cycle. If Shinkun Kuroha couldn't win in a short time, things would only get worse. One disciple after another was killed. The Great Winged Heaven School was about to be completely destroyed. Mo Yushi looked worriedly at the sea of blood enveloped by the Jade Emperor's sword formation. On the other side, the civilians were getting crazier and crazier. Many cultivators hung human heads on their waists. They were all spirit stones. Slaughter was everywhere. The disciples of the Great Winged Heaven School were forced to retreat. At this moment, there was no such thing as retreat. They just kept running. Help! No! Why is it like this? Screams could be heard everywhere. The civilians were also injured or killed. However, this didn't frighten them. It only made them more ferocious and merciless. It seemed that the Dayu Heavenly Sect was going to be completely destroyed in this muddle-headed situation. Just as the virtuous clouds were about to decrease by more than half, boom! At the main peak of the Great Winged Heaven School, Big Feather Peak. Suddenly, a terrifying aura soared into the sky. Creak! A cave suddenly opened, and a golden-robed figure walked out from within. The aura emitted by the golden-robed figure was even stronger than true monarch white feathers. The golden-robed figure slowly stepped out of the cave, and a powerful aura spread in all directions. Who is it? Some of the surrounding cultivators asked in horror. This was because they felt a great destructive power under this aura. It was as if this aura alone could crush everyone. Elder? Our Great Winged Heaven School has an elder. Immediately, a disciple of the Great Winged Heaven School said excitedly. So strong. So terrifying. The golden-robed expert exuded a horrifying aura as he stood at the top of Great Feather Peak, overlooking the surroundings. His oppressive aura caused the souls of nearly 200 million cultivators to tremble in fear. Who is he? Why is he so strong? How is this possible? The surrounding commoners stopped in horror because the aura of the golden-robed man was too terrifying. The eyes of a lower void stage expert of the Great Winged Heaven School who was covered in blood suddenly lit up. I remember now. I have a painting of him in my sect master's hall. Ancestor, it's the ancestor. Great Feather True Monarch. The Emptiness Realm expert roared. True Lord Great Feather. His voice wasn't loud, but it seemed to enter everyone's ears in an instant. Who was the Great Feather Lord? There was no need for him to explain. The founder of the Great Winged Heaven School and the #1 person in the history of the Great Winged Heaven School. This title was like a sledgehammer that hammered into everyone's hearts. How is this possible? True Lord Dayu. Why? How can the Great Winged Heaven School be so strong? The commoners panicked again. At this moment, they couldn't even think of resisting. True Lord Dayu. The golden-robed man was true Lord Dayu. Almost everyone felt a strong rumble in their heads. Becoming enemies with true Lord Dayu? What was the difference between that and seeking death? Ancestor. 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 That's great. Ancestor. The disciples of the Great Winged Heaven School rushed over in ecstasy while crying. Chapter 697. True Lord Whitefeather had a high status in everyone's hearts, but no matter how high it was not as high as true Lord Dayu. The entire Great Winged Heaven School was founded by him. How strong was he? True Lord Dayu did not appear when Imoku arrived last time, so the disciples did not know of his existence. Now that he appeared, it could be said that everyone was stunned. They were saved. No, not only were they saved, but all those who disobeyed the Great Winged Heaven School would be executed. All the disciples of the Great Winged Heaven School revealed looks of hatred. The golden-robed true Lord Dayu's eyes emitted a ray of golden light. The golden light was so dazzling that the surrounding cultivators could not open their eyes. Who destroyed my ocean of merits? True Lord Dayu glared and asked. He looked straight at a cultivator. I. That person was inexplicably shocked. Boom. That cultivator suddenly exploded, and it was incomparably bloody. Countless people who were attacking the Great Winged Heaven School immediately panicked. True Lord Dayu turned his gaze and suddenly looked at Yan Chuan's battlefield in the distance, then looked at Imo Yu Shi who was next to him. Phoenix? True Lord Dayu raised his eyebrows. Ha ha ha, true Lord Dayu, your bearing is indeed extraordinary. Suddenly, a burst of laughter came from the void. The laughter suddenly formed a wave of impact that suddenly messed up true Lord Dayu's aura. Boom! 5 figures appeared around true Sovereign Dayu. The 5 Middle Emptiness Realm experts suddenly surrounded true Sovereign Dayu. Middle Void Realm? Who are you? True Lord Dayu said coldly. World Margin Sect, Hong Yen. World Vast Sect, Han Jaimai. The 5 Middle Void Realm experts spoke at the same time. When the 5 of them reported their names, the expressions of the surrounding people changed. The 5 of them were not like true Lord Dayu. Generally speaking, Middle Void Realm experts were known as the pillars of their respective sects, but true Lord Dayu had strangely hidden and did not come out, giving people the feeling that he had died long ago. These 5 people were famous throughout the world. They were the strongest people in the world, and were grandmasters of middle-level sections. The Great Winged Heaven School was the weakest middle-level sect in the East Divine Continent, but these 5 people came from 5 other middle-level sections. Ma Fei? Were they brought here by Yan Chuan? I've never heard of you. What do you want? True Lord Dayu's eyes were filled with anger. It's nothing. I just want true Lord Dayu to stay out of this battle. Hong Yen said. As soon as Hong Yen spoke, the surrounding disciples of the Great Winged Heaven School were terrified. Patriarch, don't listen to him. They're here to destroy our Great Winged Heaven School. Patriarch, save us. A group of Great Winged Heaven School disciples said anxiously. True Lord Dayu looked at this group of people indifferently, as if his heart was very calm. In fact, in the eyes of true Lord Dayu, he didn't seem to have much affection for the Great Winged Heaven School that he had founded. I don't cause trouble, but you came to provoke me. You're courting death. True Lord Dayu's eyes suddenly narrowed. Courting death? True Lord Dayu, you and I are both in the Middle Void Realm, and we don't want to make things difficult for you. It doesn't matter who you find trouble with in half a month, but for half a month, stand still. Hong Yen shouted. Humph. True Lord Dayu glared. Boom! True Lord Dayu stretched out his hand and hit Hong Yen with a palm. A golden palm suddenly slammed towards Hong Yen. Hong Yen immediately raised his sword and slashed. Boom! The palm and sword collided, and Hong Yen was immediately sent flying with a trace of surprise in his eyes. Chapter 698. Whoosh! True Lord Dayu chased after Hong Yen. He attacked Hong Yen again. The battle between the two of them instantly caused the other 4 Middle Void stage experts to join in as well. The purpose of the 5 Middle Void state cultivators was to trap perfected Lord Dayu for half a month and lure him to Yanjin. Boom! True Lord Dayu didn't seem to care about the lives of the Great Winged Heaven School's disciples. He just followed after them. As soon as True Lord Dayu left, the disciples of the Great Winged Heaven School shuddered. Kill. Yan Chuan found 5 peerless experts. True Lord Dayu will definitely die. Kill. Huang Bing shouted in the crowd again. At that moment, everyone knew that if the Great Winged Heaven School didn't die, they would die. They had to die. They had to die. If it was for the spirit stones in the beginning, it was now to get rid of them. Kill. 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 It was a fierce battle. True Lord Dayu didn't seem to care about the lives of the Great Winged Heaven School's disciples at all. He fought with the 5 experts. Of course, the 5 experts didn't let True Lord Dayu interfere in the battle at all. Kill. 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 Everyone was killing crazily. After an entire day. Boom! The Blood Sea Jade Emperor's sword array that Yan Chuan was in collapsed. True Lord Whitefeather's head flew out, and the Blood Sea disappeared. Yan Chuan's hair recovered, but his body was full of injuries. He fell to the ground. Yan Chuan's injuries were very serious, and he was weak. However, True Lord Whitefeather was killed in the end. Yan Chuan, how are you? Mo Yushi held Yan Chuan worriedly. I'm fine. I'm just a little injured. Now, take me back to Yanjin. Yan Chuan said. Okay. Mo Yushi nodded. She carried Yan Chuan into the sky and flew across the battlefield in the blink of an eye. Mo Yushi suddenly let out a long cry. With a sway of his body, he transformed into a 200 feet long black phoenix. Dark Phoenix. With Yan Chuan on her back, Dark Phoenix flapped her wings and turned into a ray of light that quickly disappeared over the horizon. Then, he shot toward Yanjing. As the merit of the Great Winged Heaven School dissipated, Shinkun Kuroha, who was trapped by the 4 symbols formation, finally couldn't hold on any longer. No! There was a loud wail. The 4 symbols grand formation broke apart with a loud bang. Golden light shot out in all directions as boundless merits exploded. Inside of the 3 million soldiers, only 1.8 million were still alive, and most of them were heavily injured. Huo Guang's spear pierced through Shinkun Kuroha's chest. Along with it, a roll of Tian Su also broke. Boom! All the merit of the Great Winged Heaven School dissipated. Today, the Great Winged Heaven School was destroyed. The people saw the merit clouds in the sky completely explode, and they gradually stopped what they were doing. The disciples of the Great Winged Heaven School were also killed. Looking at the desolate Great Winged Heaven School, no one could laugh at that moment. At this moment, almost everyone felt a sense of emptiness. No one believed that this was caused by them. Everyone gradually calmed down. After calming down, they realized that everyone seemed to have lost something. They turned their heads and looked at the army of the Great Jin dynasty in the distance. True Lord Whitefeather's corpse and Shinkun Kuroha's corpse. How ironic it all seemed. More than half of the army of the Great Jin dynasty had been killed or injured. However, another army of the Great Jin dynasty walked out of the forest in the distance. Led by Yi Feng, another million soldiers slowly stepped into the messy battlefield. Lord Hua, thank you for your hard work. Yi Feng said solemnly. Huo Guang's body was full of injuries as he said solemnly, I'll have to trouble you to clean up the mess. Lord Hua, take the first legion to rest. I'll take care of everything. Yi Feng said. Chapter 699. Great Jin Dynasty, Yan Capital. Roar. The cry of a phoenix could be heard. A commotion broke out in the Skyward Palace Square. A large number of guards rushed into the Skyward Palace Square. They thought that an enemy had invaded. When they saw Yan Chuan and Mo Yushi descending from the sky in the center of the square, all the guards bowed respectfully. Greetings, Your Majesty. All the guards said respectfully. You may leave. Yan Chuan said lightly. Yes. The soldiers quickly retreated. We're finally back. Mo Yushi said tiredly. It's been hard on you these past few days. Yan Chuan said emotionally. Looking at Yan Chuan, Mo Yushi's tiredness disappeared, and she smiled happily. Your Majesty. Lu Jin walked over quickly. Meow. Yan Chuan, why are you covered in blood? Meow also ran over quickly. Yan Chuan did not answer. Instead, he looked up at the sky. In the sky, the great Jin dynasty's providence had increased by more than 10 times. The surging providence was churning non-stop. The golden dragon of providence, which was originally 10,000 feet long, had now grown to 20,000 feet long. Moreover, it seemed more solid and strong. 10 times the providence was surging. It was a spectacular sight. Yan Chuan smiled with satisfaction. Great Jin had finally grown stronger. Half a month passed in the blink of an eye. Yan Chuan returned early. He washed up, changed into a clean set of clothes, and sat in front of the Skyward Palace Square. The dragon throne was placed in the Skyward Palace Square. Behind it stood the civil and military officials. Yan Chuan was flipping through some information on a table in front of him. Mo Yushi stood at the side with Meow in her arms. The Great Winged Heaven School has already been destroyed. Why are you still looking at the history of the Great Winged Heaven School? Mo Yushi asked curiously. There's something strange. Yan Chuan shook his head. Oh. Lord Great Winged Heaven, why have you been hiding ever since you founded the Great Winged Heaven School? Even if the Great Winged Heaven School was controlled by Mo Ku, true Lord Dayu was still indifferent. This isn't right. Yan Chuan frowned. Mo Yushi nodded. That's right. Back then, when Heavenly Son Mo Ku stirred up chaos in the Great Winged Heaven School and forced true monarch White Feather to abdicate and support Shinkuan Kuroha, true monarch Great Wing didn't show up at all. His own sect was robbed by someone else, and he didn't do anything about it. Very strange. Secondly, this true Lord Dayu seems to be too antisocial. Yan Chuan said with a frown. Oh. There aren't many historical records of true Lord Dayu. In a heavenly bestowment conference, he won the Tian Su and established a lesser sect. Then, in a short 3 years, he destroyed 100 lesser sections. He didn't kill them all, but subdued them and expanded the Great Winged Heaven School. Then, with the fastest speed possible, he promoted it to a middle sect. Yan Chuan said in a low voice. Not many years after becoming a middle sect, true Lord Dayu abdicated and disappeared. In other words, he went into seclusion. Yan Chuan continued. Yes, it's very strange. All the major sects in the world have middle void realm experts overseeing a region. Yet, there's no news of him at all. Mo Yushi said strangely. You saw true Lord Dayu that day. At that time, true Lord Dayu said that he didn't recognize the 5 middle void realm experts I found. Why? It means that he doesn't care about the world at all. Yan Chuan said. Yes. Most importantly, when he came out of seclusion that day, what was the first thing he said? Yan Chuan asked. He said, "Who destroyed my merit?" Mo she narrowed her eyes as she recalled the past. When he came out of seclusion, what he cared about the most wasn't the life and death of a sect, but the merit of the sky. This also explains why true Lord Dayu didn't come out of seclusion when Son of Heaven Mo turned the Great Winged Heaven School upside down. That's because the merit of the Great Winged Heaven School wasn't damaged. Yan Chuan said with certainty. Chapter 700. Mo Yushi's expression changed. Boom. Just as Yan Chuan and Mo Yushi were talking, there was a sudden roar outside Yanjin. From afar, a strong wind could be seen. Sand and stones were flying. Many of the officials of Great Jin showed fear, but Yan Chuan narrowed his eyes. "They're here," Mo Yushi said. Then, Mo Yushi carried Miao and retreated to the side. Lu Jin ordered someone to move the table in front of Yan Chuan away. Yan Chuan stared into the distance. With Yan Chuan's eyesight, he could see clearly. 5 middle void stage cultivators were surrounding Lord Dayu. However, true Lord Dayu's appearance had changed completely. It transformed into a huge golden crow with 3 legs. Its entire body emitted a golden light in all directions. As it flapped its wings, a fierce wind rose. Rays of feather-like golden light shot out in all directions, forcing the 5 middle void stage martial artists to retreat again and again. Boom! Boom! When the 3-legged golden crow flapped its wings, a large number of mountains collapsed. When the golden crow's claws touched them, they shattered. 3-legged golden crow. Is there really such a race in the world? Yan Chuan said in surprise. Boom! Another loud roar came from afar. The 5 middle void stage cultivators retreated. Lord Dayu, half a month has passed. We won't stop you anymore. The one who destroyed your Great Winged Heaven School is Yan Chuan of Great Jin Dynasty. We're sorry for what happened. One of the middle void stage cultivators said. Whoosh! The 5 middle void stage cultivators flew away and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Whoosh! The 3-legged golden crow suddenly turned its head and looked at Yanjin. To be precise, it looked at the Sea of Providence of Great Jin Dynasty. Roar! With a dragon roar that pierced the sky, the golden dragon of Great Jin's Providence suddenly twisted again. Its eyes gradually became lively. Yan Chuan's will once again entered the golden dragon of Providence. With the destruction of the Great Winged Heaven School, the Great Jin Dynasty's Providence suddenly skyrocketed, and the golden dragon of Providence also became stronger. Below Yanjing City, Bai Ditian looked up at the sky and sighed. Who? The 3-legged golden crow flapped its wings and arrived in front of him. Roar! The golden dragon of Providence stomped its claw and flew out of the Sea of Providence, blocking the 3-legged golden crow. Along the way, the emptiness realm expert among the 5 people already told me that it was you. You destroyed my Great Winged Heaven School. The golden crow said angrily. Yes, your majesty, the golden dragon of destiny replied. The dragon head stared at the golden crow without backing down. Good, good, good. I didn't provoke you, but you actually dared to provoke me. You're courting death. The 3-legged golden crow said coldly. Ha ha ha, do you think you can hurt me? The golden dragon sneered. Great Jin Dynasty. You're just a dynasty. If you were an imperial dynasty, I wouldn't be able to do anything to you. However, you're just a dynasty. The golden dragon of Providence is just a dynasty's golden dragon, the 3-legged golden crow shouted. As it spoke, the golden crow's wings suddenly swept over. As it swept over, it seemed to sweep over a golden river. The dragon swung its tail and collided with the wings. Hong! The violent collision resounded through heaven and earth. The huge tremor caused countless people in Yanjing to fall to the ground. Roar! Wah! Roar! The dragon and the crow suddenly tore at each other, and a dazzling golden light bloomed. Countless dermic powers erupted in various forms. In the sky, the golden light enveloped the dragon and the crow as if they had formed a huge sun. The dragon and the crow fought, and the strong light became more and more dazzling. In the blink of an eye, countless cultivators couldn't look directly at it. Chapter 701. Rumble. The entire Yanjin seemed to be trembling. The 5 middle void state cultivators who had left earlier returned and landed on a mountain peak in the distance. The golden dragon of providence? It's on par with perfected feather, a middle void state cultivator said with a complicated expression. Perfected feather's strength is far beyond our expectations. If we were to fight him one-on-one, we wouldn't be able to defeat him. The golden dragon of providence? It seems to be a lot thicker than the last time, but it's still a little weaker. The 5 of them frowned as they watched. A dragon and a crow were fighting in the sun. You're not strong enough. I'll tear you apart. Wah! The 3-legged golden crow roared. You're right. Unfortunately, you've forgotten that this is Yanjin, my home ground. The golden dragon of providence roared. Roar! The golden dragon of providence roared. Roar! 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 Countless dragon roars were heard from all around Yanjin. The dragon veins all let out dragon roars as if they were responding to the golden dragon of providence. The power of the dragon veins shot into the sky and went straight for the sun in the sky. Rumble. The golden dragon of Dezhen's providence's strength skyrocketed once again. The golden dragon of providence's body expanded again. Roar. Boom, the original golden dragon of providence's power skyrocketed, and the power of the dragon and the crow reached a balance in the blink of an eye. In fact, the power of the golden dragon of providence was slightly stronger. The golden crow's claw against the dragon's claw. Boom. The golden crow's wing against the dragon's tail. Boom. The battle was getting more and more intense. The 3-legged golden crow said awkwardly, "Dynasty? Someone in this world can use the power of a dynasty to such an extent? I've said that this is my home ground. Let's see how I'll deal with you." The golden dragon said confidently. Arrogant. Who can deal with me? No one can do anything to me. The 3-legged golden crow said arrogantly. Great heavenly seal, the golden dragon said coldly. Boom. A huge black seal suddenly appeared on the dragon's claw. The bottom and top of the black seal were golden. The seal grew larger and larger, as if a mountain was pressing down. The 3-legged golden crow looked up and saw 8 golden words in the darkness as if the sky had collapsed. Receiving the mandate of heaven, long live and prosperous. Wah! The golden crow roared angrily at the seal in the sky. Then, an intense golden light shot towards the great heavenly seal like a golden river. Boom! The golden light shattered on its own, as if it couldn't shake the great heavenly seal at all. How is that possible? Your imperial seal shouldn't be so powerful. It shouldn't be. The 3-legged golden crow cried out in shock. Hong! A loud boom rang out as the great heavenly stabilizing seal slammed into the 3-legged gold crow. It ruthlessly suppressed the 3-legged golden crow. No, bastard! If it weren't for the fact that I'm injured, you wouldn't have been able to. The golden dragon of providence slowly descended from the sky and landed on the Sea of Providence. Bam! The Sea of Providence churned as the golden dragon of providence stepped on the great heavenly seal. The great heavenly seal pierced the 3-legged golden crow below. What kind of treasure is that? It actually pierced true Lord Dayu. A middle void realm cultivator on a distant mountain said in shock. The 5 middle void realm cultivators' expressions immediately changed. The 5 of them understood that they were no match for true Lord Dayu if they were alone. However, the powerful true Lord Dayu had actually been pierced by Yan Chuan. Thinking of this, everyone's belittling of Yan Chuan instantly vanished. They looked at each other and smiled bitterly. Did we do something wrong? Chapter 702. Half a year later. The opening of the city lord's mansion. Yi Feng looked at the 3 men in front of him. All of you are at the deity realm. In the future, the first city will belong to the great Jin dynasty. If there are any matters in the city, I'll have to trouble all of you to help. Yi Feng smiled. Lord Yi, you're too courteous. I believe that under the management of the Grand Jin dynasty, the premier city will definitely prosper. A man said with a smile. That's right. Lord Yi, those commoners have already exchanged their spirit stones. What about us? Another man asked worriedly. That's right. Although that emptiness realm expert went berserk when he was in seclusion and we took advantage of him, but... The 3 of them were slightly worried. Yi Feng waved his hand. Immediately, more than a dozen soldiers carried 3 huge chests over. Yi Feng smiled and said, since His Majesty has spoken, he will definitely keep his word. It's up to you to decide how to distribute these 100,000 upper spiritual stones. The 3 of them immediately walked up and looked at the boxes of high-grade spirit stones. Their breathing quickened. Thank you, Lord Yi. The 3 of them were so excited that all the pores on their bodies opened up. Finally, it was his turn. Everyone is wrong. This has nothing to do with me. If you want to thank someone, thank my emperor. Yi Feng said with a smile. The 3 of them nodded and said, thank you, your majesty. No, the 3 of you, don't be mistaken. Great Zhen, all of you are also citizens of Great Zhen. Yi Feng laughed. Ah. Ha ha ha, yes, yes. The 3 of them looked at the spirit stones. Naturally, everything was negotiable. My emperor killed true monarch White Feather and even raped true monarch Great Feather in Yanjing. The 3 of you know about this, right? Yi Feng smiled. I've heard a little about it. The 3 nodded solemnly. De Jin's strength was now deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. The Great Jin dynasty is a place where all kinds of talents are welcome. If the 3 of you are interested, you can take part in the imperial examinations of the Great Jin dynasty, regardless of whether it's the literary examination, the martial examination, or the miscellaneous examination. They can all become officials of the Great Jin Empire, said Yi Feng. We'll think about it. The 3 of them said immediately. No problem. Yi Feng nodded. Skyward Hall. The 5 middle void stage experts looked at Yan Chuan with a slightly complicated expression. Beside Yan Chuan stood Mo Yushi, Huo Guang, Lu Gang, and Qing Long. On a jade platform in front of him, there were 5 brocade boxes. Primeval Chaos Bell, Heart-Shocking Sword, Heartless Pagoda, Limitless Mirror, and Deep Serene Ring. 5 quasi-immortal artifacts. You can distribute them as you wish. Yan Chuan said with a smile. The 5 of them frowned as they looked at Yan Chuan. After each of them picked one, the 5 of them had slightly complicated expressions. Thank you, everyone. Yan Chuan said with a smile. The 5 of them nodded and said with complicated expressions, farewell. Yan Chuan smiled. The 5 of them didn't say anything and just walked out of the hall. He disappeared in the blink of an eye. Your Majesty, these 5 quasi-immortal artifacts are given to them just like that? Lu Gang said with a look of unwillingness. Lu Gang's horizons had been broadened. Although many magic treasures were nothing in his eyes, these were quasi-immortal artifacts. In a middle sect, they were the most precious treasures. They had obtained them with great difficulty, but they were given away just like that? Lu Gang felt his heart ache. The Great Jin dynasty is still the Great Jin dynasty after all. If we keep these 5 treasures, too many people will be jealous. Yan Chuan took a deep breath and said. But they are just safe keeping them. One day, these 5 treasures will belong to the great Jin dynasty again. Yan Chuan said with certainty. Yes. Lu Gang took a deep breath and said. Chapter 703. Your great Jin dynasty's providence is about to catch up with Julu Academy. Can't it be promoted to Imperial Dynasty China yet? Mo Yushi asked curiously. Not yet. Yan Chuan shook his head. Does that mean we can just conquer another middle-rank sect? Lu Gang asked curiously. Imperial Dynasty China, and Celestial Dynasty. Lu Gang now knew these names. Naturally, he knew that Imperial Dynasty China was the corresponding middle-tier sect. Was Great Jin still lacking? Yan Chuan shook his head. This time, the destruction of the Great Winged Heaven School has already made the surrounding sects sensitive. We should focus on recuperating. Consolidate Great Jin's power first. Yes. Lu Gang nodded. Huoguang, after the destruction of the Great Winged Heaven School, there are many mortal kingdoms in their territory. You will be in charge of flattening these kingdoms and unifying Great Jin. Yan Chuan said in a deep voice. Yes. Huoguang acknowledged. After arranging everyone, Yan Chuan and Mo Yushi slowly walked out of the Skyward Hall. The two of them walked quietly. I'm leaving soon. Mo Yushi looked a little disappointed. Yan Chuan gently grabbed Mo Yushi's hand. The two of them looked at each other. Mo Yushi's eyes flashed with affection. Yan Chuan's eyes also flashed with tenderness. Gently, Yan Chuan hugged Mo Yushi. Mo Yushi's body trembled. Yan Chuan hugged her tightly. After a while, Mo Yushi's body finally calmed down. She enjoyed this moment of tranquility even more. I won't stop you from inheriting your father's things. But be careful. Yan Chuan said solemnly. Mo Yushi replied softly. I have already told Bai Ditian to send 4 Tiger Tribe Great Demons to follow you. Together with Qing Long and the others, there are 8 Emptiness Realm experts. They will ensure your safety. Yan Chuan said softly. Mo Yushi's heart was filled with sweetness. From start to finish, Yan Chuan did not thank Mo Yushi for her help during this period of time. Because there was no need to. The two hugged for a while before letting go of each other and smiling at each other. Hand in hand, they stood together at a railing and watched the sunset. Meow, when are you leaving? Meow immediately jumped over. When Meow jumped over, Mo Yushi panicked slightly and loosened her grip. Boom! Meow jumped onto Mo Yushi's shoulder. When are we leaving? When are we leaving? Meow shouted. Meow, are you really going? Yan Chuan laughed. Of course, Sister Mo's father has immortal stones. Meow, immortal stones. Even supreme-grade spirit stones cannot compare. Sister Mo is going back to inherit her father's inheritance. Meow, meow. Meow started to fantasize. Looking at Meow, Yan Chuan laughed bitterly. Don't spoil it too much. I am willing. Mo Yushi said mischievously. Meow, Sister Mo gave me immortal stones, not you. Meow. Meow looked angrily at Yan Chuan. Alright, go. Don't cause trouble for Yushi. Also, you and I have a clan contract. If you are in a hurry, you can teleport to me. Be careful. Yan Chuan said. Mo Yushi nodded. Qing Long. Yan Chuan shouted into the distance. Soon, Qing Long, Bai Long, and the others ran over. There were also 4 very capable women. Protect Yushi. Yan Chuan said to everyone. Yes. Everyone answered. Mo Yushi looked at Yan Chuan reluctantly, turned around, and flew into the sky. The 8 people followed closely behind. Mo Yushi did not turn back. She was afraid that if she did, she would cry. Meow, meow, meow. Meow was very excited. The excited shout slowly eased the sadness of Mo Yushi's parting. After sending Mo Yushi off, Yan Chuan sighed softly. At some point, Bai Ditian appeared beside Yan Chuan. I have already chosen the tiger tribe's base. It will be west of Yanjing. Bai Ditian said. Yan Chuan looked at Bai Ditian and nodded. Bai Ditian's words confirmed one thing. From now on, the tiger tribe was willing to advance and retreat together with the great Jin dynasty. What are your plans now? Bai Ditian asked curiously. Rest and recuperate. I will change the sect-oriented mindset of the people in the great Jin dominion to that of the country. First, I will strengthen the country. Then, I will work slowly. Yan Chuan said. Bai Ditian nodded. What do you plan to do with perfected Lord Dayu? Bai Ditian asked curiously. What do you think? Yan Chuan smiled. I feel that you want to subdue him, but this person is very stubborn. It seems very difficult. Bai Ditian said. I don't like weaklings. Yan Chuan smiled. Bai Ditian immediately understood what Yan Chuan meant. Let's do it for a while first. We'll talk about it later. Yan Chuan said after taking a deep breath. Okay. Bai Ditian nodded. The Great Jin dynasty had destroyed the Great Winged Heaven School. The news seemed to have grown wings as it quickly spread in all directions. Dynasty? It was already strange enough that a dynasty had appeared in the East Divine Continent. At this moment, the dynasty that no one thought highly of had actually destroyed the Great Winged Heaven School in such a short time. Perfected Lord Dayu had even been kidnapped in Yanjing. Countless cultivators were stunned when they heard the news. It was as if they couldn't believe it. Wasn't this too exaggerated? News of this event was written on the desks of the sect masters of the various major sections. However, the news seemed so simple. Many details were unknown. Therefore, a large number of cultivators were sent to the territory of the Great Jin dynasty to search for information. Gradually, the news of the Zhidong Qian Bank and the #1 school in the world were exposed. Although Great Jin didn't admit it, many people suspected that it was planned by the Great Jin dynasty. Otherwise, how could there be so many coincidences? The news continued to spread. The scam of the Zhidong Qian Bank also quickly spread everywhere. Countless people with brains learned from this scam and started to do it again. However, the destruction of the Great Winged Heaven School alerted everyone. Wherever the Zhidong Qian Bank appeared, it would be destroyed by the various sects. After all, it was something that could shake the foundation of everyone. Everyone felt a sense of fear. Great Jin had destroyed the Great Winged Heaven School. They also occupied a position in the East Divine Land. In particular, perfected Lord Dayu was still in Yanjing, so the surrounding sects didn't dare to act rashly. Great Jin was still developing in an orderly manner. Yanjing. In the upper study. A map was spread out in front of Yan Chuan. It was one of the 3 things that Yan Tao had left for Yan Chuan. It was a map. A giant mine. A giant mine that can let the Yan clan eat for 10,000 years. I'm already an immortal state warrior. I can go and get it. What exactly is it? Yan Chuan's eyes flashed with anticipation. After all these years, Yan Chuan had a certain understanding of his father, whom he had never met before. He was also an extremely generous person. If it could make his father be careful, it must be an extraordinary giant mine. While Yan Chuan was thinking, Lu Jin's voice suddenly came from outside the study. Your Majesty, perfected Lord Dayu is about to die. Lu Jin's voice had a hint of anxiety. Chapter 704. Your Majesty, perfected Lord Dayu is going to die. Lu Jin said anxiously. Lu Jin did not enter the study, and neither did Yan Chuan. Shifting his gaze away from the map, Yan Chuan sat upright and closed his eyes. At the same time, the golden dragon of luck above the Dajin dynasty's sea of luck suddenly opened its eyes, and two beams of golden light shot out. The golden dragon grabbed the great heavenly seal and stabbed perfected Lord Dayu with its claws. It turned its head and looked down. Perfected Lord Dayu's body was covered in a large number of black stripes. The stripes were wreaking havoc and constantly destroying his body. The black stripes emitted an evil aura. It was extremely destructive. Perfected Lord Dayu was poisoned and could not use any of his magic power. He could only let the evil aura surround him. Perfected Lord Dayu was extremely weak. He narrowed his eyes and looked like he was about to die. Evil aura. The golden dragon's eyes widened. Yan Chuan recognized the evil aura at a glance. The myriad wonders demonic lotus in the feng shui array and the black rose that the Jade Emperor's sword absorbed in the light world were all evil aura. Perfected Lord Dayu also had this evil aura in his body. Perfected Lord Dayu. The golden dragon said. Perfected Lord Dayu's eyes widened as soon as the golden dragon spoke. Ha 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 ha, Yan Chuan, if I wasn't injured, do you think you can do anything to me? Perfected Lord Dayu said stubbornly. Do you know why I didn't kill you? The golden dragon said. You want to subdue me? Dream on. I'd rather die than submit to anyone. Perfected Lord Dayu said coldly. Are you trying to preserve your last shred of dignity? The golden dragon said condescendingly. Perfected Lord Dayu looked at the golden dragon with cold eyes. I've seen the evil aura in your body. At the same time, I can get rid of it all. The golden dragon said. The golden dragon's expression changed. Don't think too highly of yourself. You're just a prisoner. You're just waiting to die. Three-legged golden crow may have a glorious history, but you're nothing now. The golden dragon said coldly. Perfected Lord Dayu glared. Just because I think highly of you doesn't mean that I can tolerate you forever. The golden dragon said coldly. Ha ha ha, you want me to submit to a tiny empire? Dream on. I won't agree. My ancestors won't let me agree. You're not qualified, you're not qualified. True Lord Dayu said hatefully. Hearing this, the golden dragon's eyes narrowed slightly. He had finally gotten some information. Lord Perfected Lord Dayu. Perfected Lord Dayu to you. Can you be compared to your ancestors? The golden dragon asked in a deep voice. Perfected Lord's pupils too. Lord Dayu to you. You're just a prisoner. I didn't kill you because I pitied you. Otherwise, you'd be meeting your ancestors now. The golden dragon said coldly. Perfected Lord Dayu took a deep breath and stopped talking. He knew that Yan Chuan was telling the truth. However, the glory of his ancestors' bloodline would not allow him to submit. He looked at Yan Chuan proudly. Perfected Lord Dayu was not convinced. Yan Chuan was satisfied that Perfected Lord Dayu remained silent. At the very least, he could make Perfected Lord Dayu reflect on his actions. Yan Chuan's tone also softened. What's wrong with my Dajin dynasty? Do you think we can't become an imperial dynasty? The golden dragon asked. Perfected Lord Dayu narrowed his eyes. Imperial dynasty? Perfected Lord Dayu did not doubt Yan Chuan's methods. Therefore, he remained silent. Dynasty is just the beginning. Imperial dynasty, heavenly dynasty, and even Dajin dynasty can become the heavenly court. What's wrong with that? The golden dragon asked. Chapter 705. The Heavenly Court. Lord Dayu stared at the golden dragon's eyes with a hint of surprise. Obviously, he didn't expect Yan Chuan to have such great ambitions. De Zhen will eventually be strong, just like how you will be strong if you are allowed to grow. What's wrong with De Zhen? Once you enter De Zhen, as long as you make outstanding contributions, I will not be stingy in granting you great authority. Once you enter De Zhen, you will be blessed with limitless luck to aid your cultivation. As long as you have the ability, I will allow you to lead countless armies. I will even allow you to lead countless armies in the future. An army of 10,000 immortals will be at your disposal. The Golden Dragon said. True Lord Dayu's expression flickered. Where did your injuries come from? Since you have glorious ancestors, how did you end up in such a state? My guess is that you must have a great enemy. The strength of a single person is ultimately limited. Enter the Great Perfection Realm and wait for the day when the Great Perfection Realm flourishes. Then, you can lead a magnificent army and trample the enemy's sect. The Golden Dragon continued. True Lord Dayu's eyes flashed. Clearly, Yan Chuan's words had moved him. No, I've said it before. You are not qualified to make me submit. Even if I die, I will not submit to you. True Lord Dayu suddenly raised an eyebrow. Clearly, the pride passed down from his ancestors was not enough to make him submit. What do you mean by qualifications? What do you think qualifications are? The Golden Dragon said. True Lord Dayu's expression darkened and he remained silent. I captured and raped you. Am I not qualified? The Golden Dragon laughed. I am injured. Otherwise, why would I be captured by you? True Lord Dayu said. That makes sense. The Golden Dragon suddenly changed his tone. That was because Yan Chuan noticed that True Lord Dayu's tone had changed. True Lord Dayu looked at the Golden Dragon with a puzzled expression. I will help you remove the evil aura in your body. Go back and recuperate. When I capture you again, do you think I am qualified? The Golden Dragon laughed. What did you say? True Lord Dayu couldn't believe his ears. The Golden Dragon didn't say it a second time. Instead, it said, I allow you to seek revenge, but you can only come to me. I believe that with the pride of your ancestors, they would disdain venting their anger on commoners. True Lord Dayu stared at the Golden Dragon in disbelief. Swish! At this moment, the Jade Emperor's sword suddenly shot into the Sea of Providence and stabbed toward Lord Dayu. True Lord Dayu didn't even blink as he stared at the sword. Yan Chuan liked this ferocious aura very much. Chi! The Jade Emperor's sword suddenly pierced True Lord Dayu's skin. True Lord Dayu raised his eyebrows. Who? The Jade Emperor's sword suddenly produced a suction force. All the evil chi in his body rushed towards the Jade Emperor's sword. Outside the Jade Emperor's sword, evil aura suddenly raged. What? True Lord Dayu was surprised. Rumble. The Golden Dragon of Providence also picked up the Great Heavenly Seal. It slowly retreated. It released True Lord Dayu. True Lord Dayu didn't move. Instead, he looked at the Jade Emperor's sword in shock. The demonic sword. True Lord Dayu's voice suddenly turned cold. It was as if he had a strong hatred for the Jade Emperor's sword. No, it's not the demonic sword. Where did you get this sword? True Lord Dayu looked at the Golden Dragon in shock. I refined it. What about it? The Golden Dragon looked at True Lord Dayu. True Lord Dayu looked at the Golden Dragon with a complicated expression. You can refine something like the demonic sword? No, although it's not as powerful as the demonic sword, it can absorb the power of the demonic sword. You. True Lord Dayu looked at the Golden Dragon in shock. Chapter 706. The Golden Dragon looked at perfected Lord Dayu in confusion. Shing! The Jade Emperor's sword flew back and the evil aura around it became stronger. All the evil aura around perfected Lord Dayu was sucked away, but the injuries caused by the evil aura couldn't be healed in a short time. Perfected Lord Dayu flapped his wings and looked at the golden dragon with a complicated expression. He helped him deal with the evil aura, let him go, and asked him to take revenge. Just this boldness alone made true Lord Dayu unconsciously think more highly of him. Let's go. Heal your injuries and wait for me to catch you again. The golden dragon said confidently. Ha 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 ha. Perfected Lord Dayu's face twisted. You want to catch me? Dream on. Perfected Lord Dayu flapped his wings and flew out of the Sea of Providence. The golden dragon watched perfected Lord Dayu leave. Whoosh! After flying out of Yanjin, perfected Lord Dayu suddenly stopped and flapped his wings. He turned his head and said, "Remember, my name is Jin Dayu." Whoosh! Perfected Lord Dayu flapped his wings and disappeared into the sky. After sending perfected Lord Dayu away, Yan Chuan slowly opened his eyes in the study. Jin Dayu? Yan Chuan frowned and thought. Jin Dayu? Great Winged Heaven School. Dayu? Tianzong. Tianzong. Is there a sect called Tianzong in the world? What a great name. Yan Chuan frowned as he pondered. First open city. In a remote restaurant. There were 7 or 8 people standing in the restaurant. The leader was the Great Wisdom Bodhisattva who was defeated by Yan Chuan in Yanjin and was later saved by Tao Lord Yu Yu. At this moment, he appeared in the first open city again. The Great Winged Heaven School was destroyed. Someone next to him said in shock. I came too late. I knew it would be too late when the Lord came out of seclusion, but I didn't expect it to be so late. The Great Wisdom Bodhisattva said bitterly. The Great Winged Heaven School was destroyed and no one was left alive. Great Jin Dynasty, what a ruthless plan. Ruthless? That's how a kingdom is. All lands under the heavens belong to the king, and all lands are the king's subjects. Isn't Lord's Buddhist kingdom the same? Great Wisdom Bodhisattva shook his head. I had originally brought the Lord's decree to Shinkuen Kuroha, but it was all too late. The Great Jin Dynasty had destroyed the Lord's plans in the east. Now, should we destroy the Great Jin Dynasty together? Let's not do that. The Lord has great foresight. There is still the Dazhao holy ground in the east. If we do too much, the Dazhao holy ground might interfere and ruin the Lord's plan. Neither of us can bear the responsibility. Let's go back and report to the Lord. Great Wisdom Bodhisattva sighed. Yan Chuan got lucky. Another person nodded. Beijing. The Great Jin Dynasty consolidated its political power in an orderly manner. Cultivation methods were spread all over the world. All citizens of the Great Jin Dynasty could cultivate. The officials and soldiers of the Great Jin Dynasty could cultivate even more profound cultivation methods. In an instant, the commoners' support for Dezhin increased. Everything proceeded in an orderly manner. After a few years, the Great Jin Dynasty had almost stabilized. Yan Chuan looked at the map and found a lot of information. Finally, he found the location. Your Majesty, there is an envoy from outside requesting an audience. Lu Jin walked into the study. Oh. An envoy? Yan Chuan was puzzled. The envoy said that he was sent by Feng Yinyang of the Southern Divine Continent to deliver a letter. Lu Jin smiled. Feng Yinyang. Yan Chuan's expression changed. Yes, the envoy has been received. He is waiting for your Majesty to summon him. Lu Jin smiled. Chapter 707. Book 4, Ghost Nations Divine Sect Chapter 1, God's Sword. Above the sea of clouds, a large ship made of steel was flying at high speed. The ship's body was covered with countless arrays that emitted a faint white light. They formed a shield around the ship as it flew towards the south. At the bow of the ship, Yan Chuan leaned on the railing and looked into the distance. Beside Yan Chuan stood a man in a black robe. The man wore a black hat that obscured his face. Hades Emperor, although this flying ship is good, it consumes spiritual stones too quickly. The man in the black robe said regretfully. Is it? You're Feng Yinyang's disciple. You don't lack spiritual stones, do you? Yan Chuan smiled. The man in the black robe smiled bitterly. Although the sect has a large supply of spiritual stones, I use them too quickly. Ha ha ha, Feng Shui masters need spiritual stones. Mr. Yue, my great Jin sect has a small fortune. Don't worry. Yan Chuan smiled. I wouldn't dare. My master has instructed me not to slight Hades Emperor. Hades Emperor, just call me Yue. Don't call me Mr., or I'll be ashamed. The man in the black robe said immediately. Looking at Yue, Yan Chuan nodded. All right. There are still 7 years before the Feng Shui ceremony begins. Setting off now, with this flying boat's speed, isn't it a little early? Yue asked curiously. I still have some matters to attend to, so I'll set off early. Yan Chuan smiled. That's good. I'll cultivate in seclusion in the flying ship for a while. Yue said. All right. Yan Chuan nodded. Yue slowly returned to the cabin. At this time, Huo Guang slowly walked over. Your Majesty, the flying ship that Holy Maiden Yushi bought is really fast. Huo Guang exclaimed. How are the soldiers? Yan Chuan looked at Huo Guang. All of them have adapted to life on the airship. I've assigned 100 soldiers here, and all of them have reached the pinnacle of Qi Jing. Perhaps, they will be able to reach the immortal state in a few years' time. Huo Guang said solemnly. 100 people? That's enough. Use the spirit stones to set up the formation. Don't worry about using them up. If you use up the spirit stones, you can just get them back in the future. Yan Chuan said solemnly. Yes, rest assured, Your Majesty. Huo Guang nodded. Great Jin Dynasty, Yanjing. Yi Feng's residence. When Yan Chuan left the court and went south, there were a lot of government affairs that required Yi Feng to work hard. Yi Feng was reading some files. Master, the governor of the Eastern Military Depot requests an audience. A servant said. Lu Gang. Invite him in. Yi Feng frowned. Yes. Soon, Lu Gang was invited into Yi Feng's study. Lord Lu, what brings you to my humble abode today? Yi Feng asked with a smile. You're too kind, Lord Yi. I know that you're busy, so I won't beat around the bush. Lu Gang said with a smile. Oh. Lord Yi, my Eastern Depot recently discovered a strange matter. Originally, I wanted to report it to His Majesty, but His Majesty went south and entrusted Lord Yi with an important task. I thought that I should report it to Lord Yi, but because of this matter, I can't make a move. Lu Gang frowned. Oh. You can't make a move? Yes, Lord Yi. Do you still remember Yan Qiuyu? Lu Gang rubbed his bald head and frowned. The Yan Emperor of the past? The Emperor's relative? Now, he has been conferred the title of Marquis Yan by the Emperor. He doesn't have much power in Great Zhen, but his title is supreme. You should know that only you, me, Huo Guang, and Yan Qiuyu have been conferred the title of Marquis in Great Zhen. Yi Feng nodded. That's right. Some time ago, the Eastern Military Depot found out that Yan Qiuyu met with a few strangers. Then, his cultivation increased rapidly during this period. He went from stage 5 of the essence state to peak of the essence state. He improved by leaps and bounds. His root bone improved too quickly. Lu Gang said with a frown. Chapter 708. Yi Feng frowned and fell into deep thought. Lu Gang waited patiently. Unfamiliar faces? Do you know who they are? Yifeng frowned. I'm not sure. Those unfamiliar faces disappeared as soon as they entered Yan Ho's residence. It was as if they had evaporated. Lu Gang said worriedly. Yifeng thought for a while and said, don't leak this matter. Just keep an eye on it. De Zhen's current situation is set. Yan Ho won't be able to cause any trouble. Just pretend that nothing happened and wait for the emperor to return. Lu Gang nodded. The East Divine Continent, South Divine Continent, and Middle Divine Continent, where the three continents intersected. It was a city called White Wolf City. Your Majesty, the White Wolf City Lord's residence outside the city. If we buy it now, it will belong to us. Huo Guang said with a smile. Let's go. Yan Chuan nodded. More than 10 soldiers followed behind Yan Chuan and Huo Guang like servants. The flying boat had already passed by. Yan Chuan did not want to complicate matters in this treasure hunt. Therefore, he chose to spend spirit stones to buy the mountain range outside White Wolf City. The group walked out of White Wolf City. At the entrance of White Wolf City, a large number of cultivators were entering and exiting. When they reached the entrance of White Wolf City, wolf howls suddenly came from afar. Awoo! Yan Chuan paused and turned his head to look. Rumble! About 1,000 wolves passed by the entrance of White Wolf City and ran quickly in a certain direction. They are all demonic beasts. Huo Guang said in surprise. They are all in the essence realm. Only the Wolf King is in the Qi realm. Yan Chuan said with a smile. This group of wolves ran. Soon, Yan Chuan saw a figure in the wolf pack. It was a young man wearing animal skin. Oh. The young man's hair was disheveled. He was about 18 or 19 years old, but his face was dirty. He ran quickly in the wolf pack with his hands and feet on the ground, as if he was very excited. His hands and feet were on the ground as he ran like a wolf. Even so, his speed was still extremely fast. Huo Guang showed a hint of curiosity. Is that a human? Someone asked curiously. Boom! With a kick of his 4 legs, the young man jumped onto the Wolf King's body. Oh. The young man let out a strange cry of excitement, but the Wolf King didn't care. It turned its head to look at the young man, and its eyes flashed with a hint of affection. Doting? Yan Chuan was a little surprised. Ah, it's that wolf child. Someone at the city gate suddenly shouted. Wolf child? Which wolf child? Someone asked. You don't remember? It seemed that in the White Wolf Valley in the east, the Wolf King had picked up a baby. One had to know that to wild beasts, baby meat was the most tender and delicious. The strange thing was that not only did the Wolf King not eat the baby, she even fed the boy with wolf milk. Every day, she would find all kinds of spiritual fruits for the wolf child to eat. The wolf child also recognized the Wolf King as his mother. Every day, the wolf child would mingle with the pack of wolves, thinking that he was also a wolf. Ah! That wolf child. But I saw his speed just now. He was very fast. Who did he learn cultivation from? That wolf child is already in the essence realm. He didn't learn from anyone but the Wolf King. He absorbed the power of the moon and had spiritual fruits every day. Naturally, he has some strength. Wolf child. Unfortunately, he is neither a wolf nor a human. He has already become a monster. Only the pack of wolves can accept him. Isn't that so? He can't speak the human language and eats raw meat every day. Naturally, he is no different from a wolf. How can he still be a human? Ha 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 ha. Chapter 709. The people at the city gate were talking to each other. Yan Chuan gradually understood the origin of the wolf child. He looked into the distance with slight curiosity. The wolf child was not tolerated by humans, but integrated into the pack of wolves. He did not seem disappointed at all. Instead, he seemed to be living happily. Let's go. Yan Chuan did not linger any longer. At this moment, there were more important things to do. He had finally found the location of the map left by his father. What kind of mine was underground? Yan Chuan led Hu Guang and the others away quickly. In a mountain range, there were many palaces and buildings. At this moment, Yan Chuan's soldiers were sending the original servants away. This place had been bought by Yan Chuan. After all the servants were sent away, the flying boat in the sky slowly descended. It found a place to settle down. Hades Emperor, why did you stop here? Yu Yi, who was dressed in a black robe, asked curiously. Yu Yi, why don't you find a house to stay in for a while? I'm going to stay here to settle some matters. Yan Chuan laughed. Okay. Yu Yi did not suspect anything. The soldiers quickly flew in all directions and began to set up the formation. Soon, the mountain range was covered by thick fog. Everything was settled. Yan Chuan circled a piece of land and began to let Hu Guang dig. The more they dug, the deeper they went. After digging for nearly 100 feet, a ray of white light finally rushed out from the ground. The gentle white light illuminated the 100 feet deep pit. There were many soldiers around. Yan Chuan quickly flew to the bottom of the pit. He picked up a stone that was emitting white light and raised his eyebrows. Your Majesty, I found it. What stone is this? Why is it emitting light? Hu Guang asked curiously. Sacred light stone. Yan Chuan suddenly raised his eyebrows. Hiss. Yan Chuan gasped. Yan Chuan had seen sacred light stone before. In his previous life, Yan Chuan had one. However, it was only the size of a fist. But in front of him, it was a mineral vein. Mineral veins? Yan Chuan's eyes flashed with surprise. Father, you've given me quite a few surprises. Yan Chuan muttered to himself. Your Majesty, this is called sacred light stone. What's the use? Hu Guang was puzzled. Yan Chuan took a deep breath and said, expel all evils and purify the world. Huh? Hu Guang still didn't understand. A mine? Yan Chuan narrowed his eyes. Your Majesty, are you going to dig it out and bring it back? But, it seems to be too much. Hu Guang said worriedly. There's no need to bring it back. We have already made up our mind. Since it's a treasure left behind by our father, we naturally have to make good use of it. We will refine the sacred light stone in this mine and refine it into a sword of the Son of Heaven. Yan Chuan said in a deep voice. Yes. Hu Guang didn't understand the value of the sacred light stone. Since Yan Chuan had made a decision, Hu Guang immediately carried it out. At this point, Yan Chuan and the rest settled down. The soldiers worked hard to cultivate. During this period of time, Yan Chuan was frantically refining the sacred light stone in this mine. Yan Chuan's third sword of the Son of Heaven was about to be completed. A year later. 300 feet underground, in a huge empty shell, Yan Chuan sat in the void. The Jade Emperor's sword danced around Yan Chuan, making a provocative sound. And between Yan Chuan's knees, another sword was pressed down by Yan Chuan. The style of this sword was exactly the same as the Jade Emperor's sword. The only difference was that this sword was white and emitted a gentle white light. It was as if this white light could purify the world. The Jade Emperor's sword's provocation was directed at this white sword. Whoosh! Yan Chuan suddenly opened his eyes. He grabbed the white sword and said in a deep voice, from today onwards, I bestow upon thee the name, God. Wang. The white sword also made a buzzing sound, as if it was excited to have a new name. It also seemed to be competing with the Jade Emperor's sword for attention. The two swords hummed at the same time. God's sword. Jade Emperor's sword. Chapter 710. God has just been formed and its spirituality is insufficient. Jade Emperor, use your spirit to stimulate it and help it condense its spirit. Yan Chuan said to the Jade Emperor's sword. Wang. The Jade Emperor's sword trembled slightly, as though it understood Yan Chuan's words. Whoosh. Whoosh. The two swords suddenly flew up and landed on Yan Chuan's back. The white light from the Emperor's sword dimmed. The two swords looked exactly the same, one black and one white. It was extremely distinct. He stood up and brushed the dust off his body. Yan Chuan rushed out from the ground. Outside was a hollowed-out hall. With a wave of his hand, the door to the hall opened. Rumble. The moment the door opened, rumbling sounds could be heard from the outside. 4 guards stood at the door. Your Majesty. The 4 of them greeted respectfully. Someone is undergoing tribulation? Yan Chuan asked curiously. Yes, it's almost over. It will be over soon. One of the guards said respectfully. Where's Hu Guang? Yan Chuan asked. Your Majesty. Your Majesty went to White Wolf City. The guard said respectfully. Oh. Yan Chuan was curious. I heard that something strange happened in White Wolf City. A pack of demon wolves went to White Wolf City to propose marriage to the city lord. Mr. Yuyi was curious and wanted to take a look. Your Majesty escorted Mr. Yuyi there. The guard said respectfully. Demon wolves? Propose marriage to the White Wolf City's city lord? Yan Chuan was surprised. Demon beasts proposing marriage to someone? This situation was indeed strange. Leave half of you here to protect the soldiers undergoing tribulation. The rest of you, follow me. Yan Chuan was also curious. Yes. The group of guards replied excitedly. To the group of guards, this was indeed a strange situation. Demon wolves proposing marriage to someone? Is this a joke? Yan Chuan led 40 soldiers and flew towards White Wolf City. With the soldiers who knew the location leading the way, they soon arrived at a small mountain by the southern gate. Hu Guang, Yu Yi, and 10 other soldiers stood at the peak of the small mountain. Your Majesty. Hu Guang said respectfully. Greetings, Your Majesty. The soldiers were also extremely respectful. Yan Chuan nodded. He landed at the front and looked at the South City gate in the distance. Boom. Ayo. Outside White Wolf City, there was an intense battle going on. Batches of fiend wolves continuously fell, dying under the swords of the group of white-clad cultivators. A large number of corpses lay on the ground. Some belonged to fiend wolves, some belonged to white-clad cultivators. Blood covered the ground, and internal organs flew everywhere. There were also close to 300 wolves that had been skinned. There were also a lot of spirit fruits scattered on the ground. At this moment, more than a dozen white-robed cultivators were surrounding a wolf child dressed in animal skin. Roar! Roar! The wolf child crazily charged at the surrounding cultivators, but all it got in return were sword wounds. What's going on? Yan Chuan raised his eyebrows. Ha! Yui sighed softly at the side. However, Hu Guang held his spear tightly. Hatred flashed in his eyes, but he endured it. It's like this. Hades Emperor, do you see the people on the city gate tower? Yui asked. Yan Chuan looked over and saw a group of white-clad cultivators on the city gate tower, escorting 2 figures. One was an old man with a broken left arm and a bloody face. The other was a beautiful woman. The woman supported the injured old man as she looked coldly at the city gate. That is White Wolf City's city lord. Yan Chuan recognized the two. 1 year ago, when Xiao Chen purchased the land, they met once. That's right. That is White Wolf City's city lord and his daughter. More importantly, his daughter went to the forest for experiential training half a year ago. However, she was not strong enough and met a strong fiend beast in the forest. Just as she was about to die, that wolf child saw her and saved her, Yui said. Chapter 7:11. Oh. The wolf child saved the city lord's daughter. It wasn't a big deal because the wolves near White Wolf City rarely hurt people. But this time, the wolf child took a fancy to the city lord's daughter. He liked her at first sight. Then, the wolf child found a large amount of spirit fruits and gave them to the girl. Yui said. I also heard from the people in the city that the wolf child would bring spirit fruits into the city every 2 days and give them to the city lord's daughter. After that, the wolf child would turn around and leave. Yui frowned. What happened after that? Yan Chuan frowned. After that, it was the strange thing that we heard before. The demon wolves proposed marriage. The Wolf King of White Wolf Valley is already in the Qi realm and has the intelligence of a mortal. Naturally, he saw through the wolf child's intentions. So, he brought 300 demon wolves and a large amount of spirit fruits and spirit herbs to propose marriage. Yui explained. So, it was a marriage proposal for the wolf child. The wolves couldn't speak, but the Wolf King is already in the Qi realm. He can move the air and make sounds. When he arrived at the city, he proposed marriage. The city lord was furious. The city lord's daughter looked at him with contempt. It was fine if the marriage was not proposed, but the city lord took it as a great humiliation. He mobilized the city guards to kill the wolves. Yui said. Kill? Yan Chuan raised his eyebrows. Yes, it was that white-robed cultivator. A group of white-robed cultivators surrounded the 300 wolves. The city lord even personally killed the Wolf King. But the Wolf King's strength was not ordinary. It seriously injured the city lord, so he couldn't do anything. Yui said, pointing into the distance. The city lord was so angry that he ordered the white-robed cultivators to skin the 300 wolves to vent his anger. Yui said. Yan Chuan frowned and nodded. When the wolf child heard the news, he brought the rest of the demon wolves here. When they saw the skinned wolves, the eyes of all the wolves turned red. The pack of wolves attacked the white-robed cultivators together. That's why this happened. Yui explained. Groups of demon wolves fell, and the white-robed cultivators fell one by one. At this moment, the battle outside the southern city gate was extremely fierce. The skinned demon wolves on the ground were even more brutal. There were fewer and fewer demonic wolves. After all, the Yao wolves were too weak, the Wolf King was dead, and there were no talismans. The Xiuzha in the city all had talismans and weapons. Arg! Arg! Batches of demon wolves were stabbed to death. Close to 20 white-clothed Xiuzha surrounded the wolf child. Roar! Roar! The wolf child's eyes were red and his fingernails were covered in blood. It was unknown whether it was his own or someone else's. Hoo! The wolf children quickly pounced on the white-robed Xiuzha. If they were caught, the wolf children would immediately stab their hands into their chests or bite their throats. The wolf child was very ferocious, even more ferocious than all the other demonic wolves. At this moment, it was incomparably deranged. Its speed was shockingly fast, just like a demon. However, there were too many white-robed cultivators in the surroundings. The wolf child was fighting alone. There were already dozens of sword wounds on its body, but the wolf child did not care at all. It continued to bite with all its might. Your Majesty. Huo Guang frowned with a complicated expression. Huo Huo Guang clenched his fists and said, "This subject wants to help that wolf child. The city lord is too ruthless. Not only did the demon wolves fail to propose marriage, but he also killed them all. That city lord's daughter is even more vicious. The person who saved her back then actually repaid kindness with enmity. That wolf child, since you want to help, then let's go." Yan Chuan frowned. But Huo Guang revealed a conflicted expression. Chapter 712. What's wrong? Yan Chuan asked curiously. This White Wolf City is a subsidiary city of the Yushan Academy. According to Yue, the Yushan Academy has a close relationship with the Fengshui Southern sect. Therefore, Huo Guang said with a complicated expression. Go. Yan Chuan gave Huo Guang an order. Yes, Your Majesty. Huo Guang said gratefully. Let's go. Huo Guang ordered the 10 soldiers. Yes. Boom. The group of people quickly flew towards the southern city gate. At this moment, the long swords of 2 cultivators suddenly pierced the wolf child's shoulder, nailing him to the ground. Roar. The wolf child unwillingly let out a ferocious roar. Whoosh. Another cultivator suddenly thrust his sword at the wolf child, aiming for the wolf child's forehead. Roar. The wolf child unwillingly roared. His red eyes were filled with hatred. The sword was about to kill the wolf child. Suddenly, an astral spear pierced out and shattered the sword that was slashing towards the wolf child. Boom. Huo Guang suddenly landed on the battlefield. He stepped on the ground and a gust of wind blew in all directions. The group of white-clothed cultivators was even more swayed. The wolf child was saved. Ignoring the pain in his shoulder, the wolf child suddenly stood up. His eyes were still ferocious. He looked at Huo Guang with confusion. Who are you? On the city gate tower, the city lord suddenly shouted. Take him down. Huo Guang ordered. Boom. 10 soldiers rushed into the sky with a loud bang. Ah! The city lord cried out in alarm. Rumble. On the city gate tower, the city lord and his daughter, together with more than 10 white-clothed people, were thrown to the ground. Moreover, their cultivations were suppressed. Who are you? What are you doing? The city lord cried out in alarm. Huo Guang jumped from the ground. A long saber that fell into the blood on the ground flew into the wolf child's hand. Pa! The wolf child caught it and immediately understood what Huo Guang meant. Roar! The wolf child did not use a knife. Instead, he quickly rushed toward the man in white who was killing the wolves. Ci. 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 There were less than 50 white-robed cultivators left. Under the wolf child's frenzy, they were quickly torn apart. Every time it tore apart a white-robed cultivator, the wolf child would bite off a piece of flesh and drink a mouthful of blood. Finally, the white-robed man was avenged. The wolf child rushed towards the city lord and his daughter. Roar, roar, roar. The wolf child's eyes turned red. The city lord had already been severely injured by the wolf king and could not exert much strength at the moment. When he saw the wolf child rushing over, he immediately panicked. Don't come over. Don't. The city lord's daughter suddenly screamed and stood in front of the city lord. Don't come over, my daughter will marry you, my daughter will marry you. The city lord cried out in panic. At this moment, the city lord's daughter was also horrified. She looked at the wolf child with an expression that said, I'll listen to you. The beautiful city lord's daughter's pitiful appearance immediately softened the wolf child's heart. After all, the wolf child had admired her for a long time. After more than half a year, he had already fallen deeply in love with this girl. The wolf child's red eyes slowly faded. For a moment, he did not know what to do. Like in the past, he instinctively looked to his mother for help. The girl thought that the wolf child would not be killed, so she revealed joy. However, a trace of resentment hid in the corner of her eyes. The wolf child turned his head and saw the 5-meter-tall wolf king. The wolf king had not been skinned clean. Its skin and flesh were separated, looking extremely miserable. The wolf king fell into a pool of blood, no longer breathing. Seeing the wolf king's miserable state, the wolf child leaped over and hugged the wolf king's corpse, shaking it vigorously. However, no matter how he shook, the wolf king would not wake up. The wolf child knew that the wolf king would never wake up again. Roar! The wolf child raised his head and roared. His voice contained intense grief. Roar! 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 The wolf child kept roaring, but the wolf king had already stopped breathing. 2 drops of tears fell from the wolf child's eyes. The wolf child reached out and touched the tears in his eyes. Looking at his wet fingers, he was at a loss. Clearly, this was the first time the wolf child knew what tears were. It was also the first time he saw his own tears. The wolf child did not know what tears were, but he could feel the sadness at this moment. He turned his head and looked at the girl again. The girl smiled. This was the beauty that the wolf child had yearned for in the past. However, at this moment, the wolf child no longer loved her. Roar! With a furious roar, the wolf child charged over and sent a palm strike at the girl. Boom! The girl's head was smashed. Tears flowed from her eyes. The wolf child angrily smashed the girl again and again. Following that, he tore the city lord into pieces. Roar! The wolf child cried and roared. The wolf child had taken his revenge, but his heart was in pain. Huo Guang watched from the side and sighed softly. The wolf child roared for a while. Then, he seemed to have thought of something. Suddenly, he looked at Huo Guang. Looking at Huo Guang, the wolf child suddenly knelt before Huo Guang. No, it should be said that the wolf child prostrated itself. Without any etiquette, the wolf child did not know what kneeling was. It only knew the action of submission and gratitude of the wolf race. The wolf child prostrated itself before Huo Guang. Chapter 713. White Wolf City, on a small mountain south of the city. Yan Chuan stood with his hands behind his back and looked at Huo Guang, who was standing at the city gate in the distance, seeking revenge for the wolf child. Yu Yi, I'll explain this to Feng Yinyang. Yan Chuan said to Yu Yi. Yu Yi smiled bitterly. Emperor Yan is overthinking. Just based on the fact that Emperor Yan found the heaven-burying coffin for my master, everything Emperor Yan has done is reasonable. A city, not to mention that it doesn't belong to the South Sect, even if it did belong to the South Sect, as long as Emperor Yan says so, you can take it. Moreover, my master also said that the Emperor of Hell once saved his life. Yan Chuan nodded. However, this White Wolf City was built by my South faction leader. Yu Yi added. Oh. The sovereign of the South Sect. Yan Chuan was surprised. Our faction leader has never built a city. 30 years ago, he built 9 cities. Yu Yi said. 9 cities? I heard from Huo Guang that these cities belong to Yushan Academy. Yan Chuan was curious. The Yushan Academy is one of the 4 great academies in the world. Our sect leader was invited by the headmaster of the Yushan Academy. The headmaster of the Yushan Academy has another identity. He is our sect leader's twin brother. Yu Yi said. Oh. The Feng Shui South faction leader and the headmaster of Yushan Academy are twin brothers? Yan Chuan was surprised. Yu Yi nodded. Then, why didn't the headmaster of Yushan Academy cultivate Feng Shui? Yan Chuan asked. Logically speaking, feng shui cultivators paid attention to the time of birth and the time of birth. If one twin could cultivate feng shui, the other should be able to do so too. I'm not sure. Our faction leader and the headmaster of Yushan Academy walked different paths. Yui shook his head. For the sake of our brotherhood, the head of the Nan faction should take action. Of course, it's not a problem. But since the Yu Mountain Academy has asked the head of the Feng Shui Southern faction to take action in person, those 9 cities must be extraordinary, right? Yan Chuan asked curiously. Netherworld glanced at Yan Chuan, mused for a bit, and said with a nod, the 9 cities that sect master set up, each one is connected to a star. Above the 9 heavens. 9 stars. Which 9? Yan Chuan asked doubtfully. The Army Destroyer Star, Ravenous Wolf Star, Great Gate Star, Literati Star, Marshal Star, Lutsuan Star, Lianjun Star, Left Minister Star, Right Minister Star. Yui said. The Big Dipper. Yan Chuan said in surprise. Yui nodded. Why? I don't know. Maybe it's to increase the heaven-earth yuan qi in the city. Yui explained. But Yan Chuan didn't think so. Using the power of the stars to gather in a city, without the Grand Wind Navy to hold down the fort, it was impossible to increase the number of stars. Looking up, Yan Chuan looked at the sky. Although he couldn't see the starry sky, he could still sense it. Why would an academy need to connect to the Big Dipper? White Wolf City. Could it be connected to the Ravenous Wolf Star? Yan Chuan's expression changed. That's right. Yui nodded. At this moment, the wolf child in the distance was already kneeling in front of Huguang, as if expressing a strong sense of gratitude. Yan Chuan's eyes narrowed. Yui, you said that with the sky-burying coffin that I gave to the South sect, you could even give me a city? Yan Chuan looked at Yui. Of course. The sky-burying coffin is the most important thing in this feng shui festival. As long as the Hades Emperor is interested in any city, he can give it to you. Yui nodded. I want this one. Yan Chuan said with certainty. Chapter 714. Huh? Yui looked puzzled. I want the will of the Ravenous Wolf Star. Yan Chuan said firmly. The will of the Ravenous Wolf Star. Among the 9 Big Dipper stars, the Ravenous Wolf Star is the most violent. It will affect one's temperament. This. Yui said worriedly. Since I've asked, I naturally understand. However, you've forgotten a type of person. Yan Chuan looked into the distance. Yui looked over in confusion and suddenly saw the wolf child lying on the ground. Wolf child? Yui's expression changed. That's right. Why is the will of the Ravenous Wolf Star so violent? Because the person who inherits the will has a very high temperament. The fiercer and more vicious the temperament, the easier it is to lose oneself under the will of the Ravenous Wolf Star. However, the wolf child is different. He grew up with wolves and his temperament is like a blank sheet of paper. Such a person will not be affected by the will of the Ravenous Wolf Star. Instead, he can perfectly control the will of the Ravenous Wolf Star. Am I right? Yan Chuan looked at Yui. It seems so. Yui nodded. In that case, I'll have to trouble you. I know you need a lot of spiritual stones to set up the formation. Now that the city lord is dead, everything in the city will be arranged by you. You just need to let the wolf child inherit the will of the Ravenous Wolf Star. Yan Chuan said firmly. All right. Yui smiled bitterly. For Yui, although the 9 cities were set up by the sect leader, they were definitely not as important as the sky-burying coffin. When he returned, he just needed to report to the sect leader and let him set up another city. Yan Chuan led everyone to the southern city gate. At this moment, Huguang did not know how to deal with the wolf child. Previously, he was only moved by the wolf child's persistence. Now, the wolf child was lying in front of him. Huo Guang did not know what to do for a moment. Huo Guang. Yan Chuan flew closer. Your Majesty. Huo Guang bowed respectfully to Yan Chuan. Since the wolf child is grateful to you, you should accept him as your disciple. From now on, he will live in your first legion. Yan Chuan said. Understood. Huo Guang immediately replied. Huo Guang was also very fond of the wolf child. Otherwise, he would not have sought justice for him. Since the emperor had spoken, Huo Guang naturally chose this disciple. Your Majesty, please bestow a name to my disciple. Huo Guang immediately said. Let's call him Greedy Wolf. Yan Chuan laughed. Yes. Huo Guang replied respectfully. Bring him into the city and let Yi help him inherit the will of the ravenous wolf star. Yan Chuan said. Huo Guang's eyes lit up. Will of the stars. Huo Guang had relied on the army breaker willpower to increase his strength by countless times. He naturally understood the value of the star willpower. Yes, thank you, Mr. Yi. Huo Guang smiled. Huo Guang immediately helped the wolf child up. The wolf child was extremely grateful to Huo Guang, and it did not reject Huo Guang's actions at all. 3 months later, White Wolf City, City Lord's Mansion. Midnight. Boom. 9 rays of light suddenly shot out from the array in the city, rushing straight to a high platform in the center of the City Lord's Mansion. On the high platform, the wolf child was enveloped by a ray of light that reached into the starry sky. Above the starry sky, the ravenous wolf star shone brightly. Above the wolf child's head, the tribulation clouds of the 29 heavenly tribulations rolled. Boom! 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 The wolf child desperately fought against the heavenly tribulation. With Yi presiding, the wolf child inherited the will of the ravenous wolf while transcending the tribulation. Huo Guang stood guard at the side, careful of his first disciple. Yan Chuan stood outside the city lord's mansion, looking at the abrupt high platform. High platform. White Wolf City has a special high platform. And it's on that position. It seems that Yushan Academy is also waiting for someone to inherit the will of the ravenous wolf. An academy? They actually want to inherit the will of the ravenous wolf? Yan Chuan frowned and thought. How's the information collection? Yan Chuan looked at the guard at the side. Your Majesty, this is all the information about Yushan Academy in White Wolf City. The guard at the side said. Yan Chuan nodded. The crowd continued to watch the wolf child transcend the tribulation. The starlight pillar connected to the 9th heaven. This scene attracted the attention of countless people. Even people outside the city could see it clearly. After all, this starlight pillar was too eye-catching in the middle of the night. Outside the city, in a valley in the east. A black-robed old man slowly walked out of the valley. Suddenly, he saw the starlight pillar in White Wolf City. Bastard, who dares to steal my sex will of the stars? The old man shouted angrily, stepped into the sky, and flew quickly toward White Wolf City. 2 hours later. Boom! The last bolt of lightning completely ended, and the wolf child successfully entered the Qi state. The will of the ravenous wolf enveloped the wolf child. The wolf child looked at his palms and seemed to be very happy. How do you feel, ravenous wolf? Huo Guang smiled. Master, ravenous wolf, has the power. The wolf child stammered. Ha, good, thank the emperor. Huo Guang pointed out. Ravenous wolf immediately looked at Yan Chuan and bowed respectfully. Right to the emperor. For the past 3 months, Huo Guang had been teaching Ravenous Wolf how to speak. Although he was stammering now, he could finally say something. Yan Chuan nodded with satisfaction. Hades Emperor, I did not disappoint you. Yi wiped his sweat and smiled. Thank you. Yan Chuan said sincerely. You're welcome, Hades Emperor. Yi shook his head. While everyone was celebrating for Ravenous Wolf, suddenly, an angry roar sounded. Bastard, how dare you steal the will of the stars of the South Sect? The voice was full of anger and rushed toward the governor's mansion. Roar. Ravenous Wolf let out a roar in the direction of the voice. He instinctively felt hostility and his face revealed a ferocious expression. Yan Chuan narrowed his eyes and looked at a black-robed figure flying in the distance. Bang! A gust of wind blew and the black-robed figure stopped in front of everyone and stared at Ravenous Wolf, who was shrouded by the Ravenous Wolf star. So it's this little bastard. Stealing the will of the Ravenous Wolf star, you're courting death. The black-robed figure snorted coldly. Bastard, how dare you scold my disciple? Boom! Huo Guang stabbed his spear at the black-robed figure. No, wait. Yi suddenly stood up from the side and Jiaohu. Huo Guang paused for a moment. He looked at Yi in confusion. Senior brother Ming Lu, why are you here? Yi asked in surprise. Yi. It's you. Ming Lu's tone sank. This is Emperor Yan, my sect's distinguished guest. I was the one who triggered the will of the stars. Senior brother Ming Lu, what do you mean by this? Yi asked in confusion. Ming Lu looked at Yi and fell silent for a moment. Finally, he looked at Ravenous Wolf. Alright, since that's the case, for Feng Yinyang's sake, you can leave. This little bastard, this kid who inherited the will of the Ravenous Wolf star must stay. Ming Lu said firmly. No. Yi suddenly shouted. Even if you can't, you have to. This little bastard stole the will of the Ravenous Wolf star. He must stay. Ming Lu shouted coldly. Huo Guang. Yan Chuan looked at Huo Guang. I'm here. Chase away this beast that doesn't speak human language. Chapter 7:15. An astral spear shot out. Huo Guang did not care who he was. As long as Yan Chuan gave the order, he would immediately attack. Boom! Ming Lu flew back 100 zhang. Bastard! Someone hired by Feng Yinyang. You're courting death. Ming Lu shouted angrily. Just as he was waiting for Huo Guang to step forward to teach him a lesson, Ming Lu suddenly waved his hand. Rumble. With this wave of his hand, dense fog billowed and dense Yin Qi filled the air. Large numbers of Yin souls flew out in all directions and pounced on the group. Swish. Yan Chuan could clearly see that in the thick fog, there were magical treasures that looked like black chess pieces. They were spurring the black fog to become even more exuberant. Roar. Woo. Ka ka ka. In the thick fog, the sound of ghosts wailing and wolves howling filled the air, covering the sky and the moon. For a moment, the city lord's mansion was filled with the sound of evil spirits. Who? 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 One evil spirit after another pounced at the crowd. There were tens of thousands of them. Ming Lu, are you going to kill us all? Yi roared. Exterminate? Feng Yinyang won't be able to jump around for much longer. Ming Lu said coldly in the fog. Bastard! Fellow sect members are at odds with each other. Ming Lu, you've violated the South Sect's greatest taboo. Yi roared. All of you are dead. Who else knows? Within the thick fog, Ming Lu said eerily. 6 arts of ghost warding. Yi shouted. Yi's figure flickered, and he waved his hand. Suddenly, a circular wheel appeared around them, as if to protect everyone. Boom! The 10,000 ghosts rushed towards the wheel, and the wheel shattered. You? It would be better if Feng Yinyang came. Ming Lu sneered from within the thick fog. Is it a ghost stone? Your father actually gave you the ghost stone? Yi cried out in shock. It's too late to know. Myriad ghost devour. Ming Lu shouted. Boom. Within the thick fog, the number of Yin spirits suddenly increased by more than twofold. 20,000 evil spirits roared ferociously. Roar! 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 10,000 ghosts rushed over in a frenzy. Boom! 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 Huo Guang led a group of soldiers and quickly thrust out their spears. However, these ghosts were extremely special. They could even gnaw on spears. The soldiers were immediately restrained. Humph! Yan Chuan snorted coldly. Swish! God's sword suddenly flew out. Buzz! When the Emperor's sword flew out, it suddenly burst out with a dazzling white light. Wherever the white light reached, the thick fog immediately dispersed. Countless evil spirits touched the white light and melted upon contact. Ah! Woo woo! Oh! The 10,000 ghosts screamed in pain. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the vast area of dense fog was instantly purified. The god's sword suddenly shot out. Boom! God's sword stabbed into a piece of black stone. The darkness exploded with a loud bang. When the fog dispersed, Ming Lu's figure was revealed. Ming Lu was controlling the black stone, but it was suddenly shattered by the Emperor's sword. What is it? Ming Lu's face was blank, as if he was dreaming. At this moment, Huo Guang's spear suddenly appeared. The vast energy spear arrived in front of Ming Lu in the blink of an eye. In addition to the thick fog, there were also many black Dharma treasures that looked like chess pieces in the surroundings. When Ming Lu was in danger, a large number of black Dharma treasures instantly shot back and blocked in front of him. However, Huo Guang's spear was extremely powerful. Boom! All the Dharma treasures shattered with a loud bang. Ming Lu was sent flying by the force of the impact. Pfft! In his confusion, Ming Lu spat out a mouthful of blood. His head was petrified and flew out. The ghost stone shattered. My 1,000 chess formation is also broken. Chapter 716. How was this possible in such a short period of time? Attack! Huo Guang shouted at the soldiers. Roar! Immediately, the 50 generals attacked Ming Lu ferociously. Boom! 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 Ming Lu was only at the Immortal realm. His Dharma treasure was destroyed, his mind was injured, and his body was injured. At this moment, he was extremely weak. How could he resist the 50 ferocious soldiers? Boom! Boom! Ah! Ming Lu screamed. However, Huo Guang stopped attacking and looked at Yan Chuan. God's sword flew back. Yi, on the other hand, was stunned. Hades' Emperor, that was a ghost stone, Ming Lingtian's feng shui treasure. It contains 100,000 evil spirits. Shattered with a single strike. Even the 100,000 wraiths have all been purified. This person is from your southern sect. How do you want to deal with it? Yan Chuan asked. If it were anyone else, Yan Chuan would have killed Ming Lu directly, but he was from the south sect. Yan Chuan didn't want to make things difficult for Feng Yinyang. Well, although just now. Yu Yi said bitterly. But in the end, he's still a member of the southern sect. Our southern sect has rules that forbid internal strife. Yan Chuan nodded, then turned to Huo Guang and said, beat him harder. Yes. Huo Guang replied with a smile. Disciple, let's go. Someone insulted you just now. Master will take you to beat them up. Huo Guang said as he brought Tan Lang along. Oh. Tan Lang nodded in confusion. Beast? Tan Lang didn't understand that this was an insult, nor did he feel that it was an insult. Since his master said so, then it was. This Ming Lu. I just saw him using Go as a magic weapon. And he's actually guarding the city for the Yu Mountain Academy? Yan Chuan looked at Yu Yi curiously. In the southern sect, there is only one first-generation disciple, the sect leader. Then there are the second-generation disciples. My master, Feng Yinyang, and his father, Ming Lingtian, are both second-generation disciples. Ming Lu is lucky. His fate is to practice feng shui, but he was sent by Ming Lingtian to the Yueshan Academy. He is both a descendant of the southern sect and a student of the Yueshan Academy. N. Yan Chuan nodded. Yan Chuan didn't care too much about Ming Lu. He didn't pursue the matter because he was giving Feng Yinyang face. However, he could avoid the death penalty, but not the punishment. Beat him up. Beat him up until his mother can't recognize him. In the plaza below, Huo Guang commanded a group of people to beat up Ming Lu. Yes. Boom boom boom. White Wolf City's greedy wolf, to refine Emperor's sword. Yan Chuan led the group and set sail again. The flying boat flew quickly in the sky and disappeared in the blink of an eye. White Wolf City, in an open space outside the city lord's mansion. Ming Lu's clothes were tattered, and his body was covered in wounds. His bones were broken, and he lay on the ground, looking at the sky with a sorrowful expression. He had the ghost stone. How could he be defeated so badly? 2 days later, someone came. Young Master Ming, who beat you up like this? Ming Lu looked at the person who came and took a deep breath. Quick, send me back. I want to find my father. Yes. Also, send someone to the Yueshan Academy and inform my master that the ravenous wolf star has been taken, and he is now heading to the southern sect. Ming Lu said again. Yes. They flew all the way to the south. After another 2 years, Yan Chuan and his group finally arrived at the southern sect of Feng Shui. The steel flying boat flew high in the sky, passing over the heads of a large number of cultivators. They headed towards the mountain range. Chapter 717. Perhaps this Feng Shui ceremony was too famous. Countless cultivators came from all directions to watch the ceremony. Although they didn't know what the ceremony was about, it didn't change the interest of the major sects in the southern divine continent. The southern sect of Feng Shui was not only one of the 2 sacred grounds of Feng Shui in the world, but also the most powerful sect in the southern divine continent. This Feng Shui ceremony was naturally very important. In the southern sect of Feng Shui, there was no sea of merit or sea of providence in the sky. However, there were many dragon veins gathering on the ground. The flying boat slowed down when it got close. Yan Chuan saw it clearly. The dragon heads of the dragon veins were all facing the center. The qi of heaven and earth was also very rich. Countless cultivators below looked up at the sky. Suddenly, several black-robed figures flew over and blocked the flying boat. Yu Yi took out a token. The black feathers immediately retreated, and the flying boat continued forward, heading toward the dragon veins. The southern sect is indeed worthy of its reputation. There might not be many sects in the world that can compare to the number of dragon veins here. Yan Chuan praised. This is the 10,000 dragons array of the southern sect. It draws tens of thousands of dragon veins from all directions to form this sacred ground of Feng Shui. Yu Yi said proudly. 10,000 dragons. Yan Chuan's eyes flashed with a hint of emotion. One had to know that there were only 100 dragon veins in Yanjing. Yanjing's layout was 100 dragons bow, supreme of the world. However, if there were 10,000 dragons bowing, it would naturally be more exquisite. After flying for a while, several groups of people came to stop them, but they were all blocked by Yu Yi. At the same time, it also attracted the curiosity of countless cultivators. Finally, the flying boat flew to the center. It was a vast city surrounded by a vast mountain range in the center. There were many mountains around the mountain range. The flying boat flew toward one of them. Rumble. The flying boat slowly came to a stop. More than a dozen people stood on the mountain peak. The one in the lead had clouds embroidered on his robe. He was none other than Feng Yin-yang. Yan Chuan, I've been waiting for a long time. Feng Yin-yang said with a smile. I hope I'm not too late. Yan Chuan smiled. Of course it's not too late. There's still more than a year before it starts. Please. Feng Yin-yang smiled. Yan Chuan nodded. Yi, take the others and settle down first. Feng Yin-yang instructed Yi. Yes. Yi nodded. Go. Yan Chuan instructed Hu Guang. Yes. Yi and the others led Hu Guang's group to their accommodations. There were many palaces on this mountain peak, so it was naturally easy to stay there. Feng Yin-yang personally invited Yan Chuan to the main palace. The main hall was huge, and the heaven and earth yuan qi was extremely dense. There was a huge plaque above it that said Yin-yang Hall. Another distinguished guest came to my Yin-yang Peak recently. Perhaps you know him. Feng Yin-yang chuckled. Oh. Yan Chuan was curious. He's in my Yin-yang Hall. You'll know when you see him. Feng Yin-yang said with a smile. Yan Chuan nodded. Feng Yin-yang stepped into the main hall. There was a chessboard in the main hall, as if someone had been playing. One side was empty, while the other side was occupied by someone familiar. Greetings, Hades Emperor. That person stood up and smiled. Meng Ziqiu. So it's the master of Julu Institute. Yan Chuan smiled and bowed. Meng Ziqiu was the former master of Julu Academy. He was the father of Mr. Monroe and Meng Rongrong. Institute master? Ha, I'm no longer the institute master. I'm just an unaffiliated person now. I heard about the South faction's prosperity and came to watch the ceremony. Hades Emperor, you're too polite. Meng Ziqiu said with a smile. Meng Ziqiu had personally attended the ceremony of Dezhen's founding. He naturally knew that Yan Chuan was no ordinary person. Chapter 718. 3 months later. Yin-yang Hall. Yan Chuan and Meng Ziqiu were playing chess. Feng Yin-yang brewed a pot of tea and sat at the side, looking at the chessboard. Dean Meng, you were invited here as well, right? Yan Chuan placed down a black chess piece and smiled. Dean Meng and my master were good friends, so you have a Southern Sect token. Like you are the most honored guest. Feng Yin-yang smiled. Southern Sect token. I heard from Hu Guang that some of the middle sect leaders of the Southern Divine Continent are here. Do they have Southern Sect tokens too? Yan Chuan asked curiously. No, they are just ordinary honored guests. The highest rank is a purple token. There are only a few Southern Sect tokens. Feng Yin-yang smiled. Yan Chuan looked at Feng Yin-yang and smiled. It seems like you helped me get this one. The sky-burying coffin that you gave me is the most important item in this battle. I just went with the flow. My master has been very kind to me, so it wasn't difficult. Feng Yin-yang took a sip of tea and smiled. Southern Sect leader, Li Kanglin. Rumor has it that feng shui can only be passed down to one person in each generation. Only one person can receive the true teachings. Li Kanglin has 8 disciples, so he probably hasn't passed down the essence of the Southern Sect to you. Even so, Mr. Feng is very knowledgeable in feng shui. No wonder Li Kanglin has been so kind to you. Yan Chuan smiled. I like to study more. Feng Yinyang smiled and didn't say much. Meng Ziqiu smiled and said, "That's not all. Li Kanglin holds Feng Yinyang in high esteem. When he spoke to me in the past, he seemed to have the intention of passing down this line to Feng Yinyang. Dean Meng, you are too kind." Feng Yinyang's eyes flashed with excitement. "What is this Feng Shui sacrificial ceremony?" Yan Chuan asked. Feng Yinyang looked at Meng Ziqiu and smiled. "Dean Meng, has my master told you about this?" Meng Ziqiu looked at Feng Yinyang and then at Yan Chuan. He immediately understood what Feng Yinyang meant. The southern sect must have instructed him not to divulge the specifics, but Feng Yinyang also wanted to inform Yan Chuan, so he wanted to use his own mouth to divulge it. Yellow Springs Road. Meng Ziqiu nodded. "Road to the underworld?" Yan Chuan's expression changed. "That's right. Only Feng Shui masters can connect the yin and yang realms. However, even if a Feng Shui master connects the yin and yang realms once, the price they have to pay is extremely terrifying. Many Feng Shui masters can't do it, and the South Sect's Feng Shui festival this time is to open up a path that connects yin and yang, the Yellow Springs Road." Meng Ziqiu took a deep breath and sighed. "Road to the Yellow Springs? Connecting the yin and yang realms? Doesn't that mean that once this path is opened, people from the yang realm can go to the nether realm, and ghosts from the nether realm can also enter the yang realm?" Yan Chuan frowned. "That's right." Feng Yinyang nodded. "Not to mention the world, your southern sect will definitely grow countless times stronger because of this. You Feng Shui masters are the best at controlling the power of yin and yang." Yan Chuan smiled. Feng Yinyang nodded. He didn't refute. Yan Chuan looked at Meng Ziqiu curiously as he placed his chess piece. "During this period of playing chess with you, I noticed that Dean Meng seems to have a lot on his mind." Yan Chuan looked at Meng Ziqiu curiously. Meng Ziqiu smiled bitterly and said, "Hades' emperor is really good at chess. You can actually observe people in detail from the game. It's just an accidental discovery. If Dean Meng has any difficulties, you can tell us. If we can, we will do our best to help you," Yan Chuan said curiously. "That's right. Dean Meng and my master are best friends. Our southern sect can help you with anything you need." Feng Yinyang nodded. Chapter 719. "Thank you." Meng Ziqiu shook his head. Clearly, he did not want to share. Since Meng Ziqiu did not want to talk, Yan Chuan and Feng Yinyang did not ask any more questions. They continued to place their chess pieces. Just as the three of them were playing, a commotion came from outside the hall. "Feng Yinyang, come out!" Someone shouted angrily outside the hall. The shout went straight to the yin-yang hall. Feng Yinyang, who was sitting aside, raised his eyebrows. "Ming Lingtian?" Feng Yinyang said in a low voice. "Ming Lingtian? Looks like it's your senior brother. Another disciple of Li Kanglin." Meng Ziqiu smiled. "You guys continue. I'll go out and take a look." Feng Yinyang stood up. Yan Chuan smiled and put down his chess piece. "Ming Lingtian. Looks like he's looking for me." Feng Yinyang knew the reason. After all, Yan Chuan had been here for 3 months. Yu Yi had already told Feng Yinyang everything. Yan Chuan stood up and walked out of the hall with Feng Yinyang. Outside the hall, 2 groups of people stood opposite each other. Yu Yi led a group of Feng Shui masters to protect Hu Guang, Tan Lang, and the rest behind him. They looked coldly at the group of people in black. The group of people opposite them also wore black robes. Clearly, the Feng Shui masters had a special liking for black robes. There were 32 people opposite them. The 2 leaders, one of them had a protruding bone on his forehead. His face was dignified and his eyes were as sharp as knives. Clearly, he was Ming Lingtian. The other leader was Ming Lu, who was beaten up by Hu Guang 2 years ago. Ming Lingtian and Ming Lu looked at Tan Lang, who was beside Hu Guang. Tan Lang was not afraid. His face was ferocious. Roar! Tan Lang seemed to be repelling the group of people in front of him. Yan Chuan and Feng Yinyang stepped forward. Your Majesty. Master. Everyone respectfully made way for Yan Chuan and Feng Yinyang to walk to the front. Ming Lingtian looked coldly at Yan Chuan with his son. Ming Lingtian, why have you come to my Yinyang peak? Feng Yinyang asked coldly. Judging from Feng Yinyang's attitude, the relationship between these two brothers was not harmonious. Ming Lingtian narrowed his eyes and said, Feng Yinyang, are these the people you invited? So what? Feng Yinyang said coldly. Capture them all. Ming Lingtian shouted. Yes. Behind Ming Lingtian, 30 black-robed men suddenly stepped forward, wanting to grab Yan Chuan, Hu Guang, and the others. How dare you? Feng Yinyang suddenly shouted. The 30 black-robed men paused. Feng Yinyang, what are you trying to do? Stop the Ministry of Justice from enforcing the law. Ming Lingtian said coldly. The Ministry of Justice? Yan Chuan looked curiously at the 30 black-robed men behind Ming Lingtian. Enforcing the law? What law? But you, Ming Lingtian, what's wrong with you, coming to my Yinyang peak to arrest people? Feng Yinyang said coldly. Among the 30 people of the Ministry of Justice, one of them immediately spoke. The hall leader said that these people beat up the disciples of our southern sect, ruined our plan, stole the city built by the sect leader, and even killed the people of the Yushan Academy. They are our enemies, so we are here to arrest them. You believe Ming Lingtian's one-sided story? Feng Yinyang said coldly. The 30 black-robed men from the Ministry of Justice hesitated. Feng Yinyang, they beat me up, and the disciples of the Ministry of Justice can testify. They killed the Patriarch of Yushan Academy's White Wolf City and destroyed the Patriarch's plan. Many people can testify. Also, Yi, tell me, am I telling the truth? If you dare to deny it, you will be breaking the sect rules. Many people in White Wolf City witnessed it. You can't deny it. Ming Lu shouted. Bastard, you have no respect for your elders. Do you have the right to speak here? Feng Yinyang said in a deep voice. You. Ming Lu was furious. Hall Master Feng, look. The black-robed men looked at Feng Yinyang. Feng Yinyang smiled and said, Yan Chuan, let me borrow your Nan sect token. Yan Chuan handed over a small black token. Ming Lingtian's expression changed when he saw the small card. See? Nan sect token. Whoever holds the Nan sect token is the most honored guest of Nan sect. No one can blame you except the Patriarch. Feng Yinyang handed over the Nan sect token. The black-robed man took it and checked it with his power. He confirmed its authenticity. I have offended you before. Please forgive me, my most honored guest. The black-robed man returned the Nan sect token respectfully. Yan Chuan took it and nodded. Nan sect token. How is that possible? Who are you? Ming Lingtian was surprised. Dezhen, Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan said calmly. Yan Chuan. It's you. You got the sky-burying coffin by luck? Ming Lingtian suddenly remembered. Luck? Ha! Yan Chuan sneered. Ming Lu's expression darkened. With the Nan sect token in hand, Ming Lu knew that his beating was in vain. Father. Ming Lu looked at Ming Lingtian unwillingly. Ming Lingtian's eyes flickered. Then, he looked at the greed wolf at the side and narrowed his eyes. Since you have the Nan sect token, you are my Nan sect's most honored guest. However, even an honored guest cannot steal from my Nan sect. Ming Lingtian said coldly. Steal from the Nan sect? Oh. Yan Chuan looked at Ming Lingtian curiously. That brat is a wolf child outside White Wolf City. He stole the greedy wolf star's will that the sect master set up. This belongs to my Nan sect. I can let bygones be bygones, but this wolf child must be handed over to me. Ming Lingtian said coldly. What if I refuse? Yan Chuan asked coldly. Yan Chuan's eyes were cold, not giving in at all. How dare you? This is my Feng Shui Nan sect, not your East Divine Continent. Even if you have the Nan sect token, I will take this wolf child away. Ming Lingtian shouted coldly. As Ming Lingtian spoke, he took a step forward, and a disc-shaped wheel appeared. As the wheel spun, the ground suddenly churned. Roar! Suddenly, a dragon roar came from the ground. Ming Lingtian's aura soared as he charged at Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan's eyes turned cold. Just as he was about to make a move, Feng Yinyang reacted even faster. Roar! A dragon roar also came from Feng Yinyang's feet. The ground bulged, and a dragon-shaped yellow light charged at Ming Lingtian's aura. Hong! The two auras clashed, and a large number of whirlwinds erupted in the surroundings, blowing in all directions. You are the one who is being impudent. Ming Lingtian, this is my Yinyang Peak, not a place for you to behave atrociously. Feng Yinyang shouted. Feng Yinyang and Ming Lingtian faced off against each other. Both of them were enveloped by a dragon-shaped yellow light, as if two huge dragon heads were facing off against each other. Violent winds blew in the surroundings as a vicious aura wreaked havoc. This immediately attracted the curious gazes of countless cultivators in the surroundings. Yinyang Peak. They started fighting. How can that be? That's Feng Yinyang. Who dares to be impudent at Yinyang Peak? Two dragons fighting. A feng shui battle. Let's go and take a look. Let's go. Chapter 720. Feng Shui Southern Sect, Yinyang Peak. Two ferocious dragon roars suddenly resounded on Yinyang Peak, accompanied by the sound of impact. Countless cultivators in the outer cities looked up and saw two huge dragon heads facing each other in the distance. Swish! 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 Many cultivators rushed to the top of Yinyang Peak. That's Feng Yinyang. Ming Lingtian. Someone immediately recognized him. This pair of senior brother and junior brother. Why are they fighting? Causing the dragon veins to fight? Only a feng shui master can do that. Everyone was amazed. Feng Yinyang and Ming Lingtian both had ferocious looks on their faces. The dragon heads that enveloped the two also showed ferocious expressions. As they roared, the two yellow dragons collided. Boom! 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 The two dragons collided, instantly creating a powerful whirlwind. The whirlwind wreaked havoc, causing the earth to tremble. Boom! Another loud sound rang out. Thud! Feng Yinyang took a step back. Ming Lingtian did not move at all, but his face suddenly flushed red. Whoosh! The two dragon heads scattered. Feng Yinyang, no wonder Master said that you are a feng shui genius. Your feng shui technique is indeed profound. Ming Lingtian said with a sullen expression. Feng Yinyang stared coldly at Ming Lingtian. Unfortunately, feng shui technique is not everything. Your cultivation is still too weak. Lower Void Realm. If you were like me and reached the Middle Void Realm, I would be the one defeated today. Ming Lingtian said coldly. Lower Void Realm? Middle Void Realm? Humph. No wonder Master said that your cultivation is wrong. Feng Shui masters only cultivate Feng Shui. Cultivation is just a side effect. Middle Void Realm? So what? Feng Yinyang said with a sullen expression. Ridiculous. You. Ming Lingtian was about to reprimand. Feng Yinyang spread his arms and waved them. Rumble. Behind Feng Yinyang, 10 giant dragon heads appeared. They were the same as before, but this time, there were 10 more. The 10 dragon heads surrounded Feng Yinyang and roared at Ming Lingtian. Ong! The 10 dragons roared, their voices shaking the 9 heavens. A loud roar, accompanied by an aura that was 10 times stronger, pressed toward Ming Lingtian. Step, step. Ming Lingtian couldn't help but take 2 steps back under the powerful aura. I've already said that this is my yin-yang peak. Ming Lingtian, take your son and scram. Otherwise, don't blame me for disregarding our brotherhood. Feng Yinyang said coldly. Ming Lingtian's expression changed. Looking at the 10 dragon heads, shock flashed through his eyes. Attracting the dragon veins? Attracting 10 at the same time? This feng shui technique was far beyond his own. Good, good, good. Feng Yinyang. Just you wait. Ming Lingtian gnashed his teeth and said. Whoosh. Ming Lingtian flung his sleeves and prepared to leave. Before leaving, Ming Lingtian glanced at the greed wolf and then coldly at Yan Chuan. Facing Ming Lingtian's cold gaze, Yan Chuan naturally wouldn't back down. In fact, Yan Chuan even revealed a disdainful sneer. In Ming Lingtian's eyes, this smirk was a great humiliation. Father, what should we do now? That little bastard is. Ming Lu said somewhat anxiously. Let's go. Although Ming Lingtian was unwilling, he understood that his feng shui technique was not as good as Feng Yinyang's. He would only embarrass himself if he continued. Chapter 721. But Ming Lu was still unwilling to give up. Ha ha ha, Feng Yinyang, long time no see. Your feng shui skills have become more profound. Suddenly, a voice was heard. Everyone looked toward the source of the voice. In the distance, 16 white figures flew over. All of them were dressed in white. The leader had a fair face and looked very elegant. He even looked condescending. Teacher, you're here. Ming Lu was delighted. Ah. Li Kanglin, master of the South faction. Someone exclaimed. No, he's not Li Kanglin. He's the dean of Yu Mountain Academy, Li Tsanghai. Yu Mountain Academy? Li Tsanghai. Why is he here? Everyone was curious. Greetings, Dean Tsanghai. Feng Yinyang and the others greeted him politely. The dean of Yu Mountain Academy and the master of the South faction were twins. Feng Yinyang and Ming Lingtian had to be polite. Even if they didn't call him elder, they had to be respectful. Li Tsanghai. Yan Chuan frowned and looked at Li Tsanghai. Yan Chuan knew why Li Tsanghai was here. He must be here for Tan Lang. Yan Chuan became more and more serious when he saw Tan Lang's attention. What was the Yueshan Academy's plan? Why did they care so much about Tan Lang? The 16 people landed on the square in front of Yin and Yang Hall. They stood behind Li Tsanghai. Li Tsanghai looked at them. Ming Lingtian, I asked you to help me find the item of Yu Mountain Academy. Have you found it? Li Tsanghai asked. Ming Lingtian smiled and said, Dean Tsanghai, the little bastard who stole Tan Lang's willpower is over there. Ming Lingtian pointed at Tan Lang. Roar. Tan Lang looked ferocious, but was stopped by Hu Guang. Little bastard. Ming Lingtian, who are you scolding? Yan Chuan's eyes turned cold. Ming Lingtian frowned and looked at Yan Chuan. How dare you slander my subjects? Yan Chuan said coldly. Ming Lingtian revealed a trace of a cold smile and said, I already said that he is a little bastard, so what? He was raised by a wild beast and is no different from a wild beast. He is a little bastard. Yan Chuan narrowed his eyes and said coldly, remember what you said just now. You will regret it. Ming Lingtian showed a trace of disdain. Regret? How dare a mere God realm cultivator threaten him? Li Canghai ignored the feud between Yan Chuan and Ming Lingtian. Instead, he looked at the nearby greed. Wolf child. The will of the greedy wolf star. Perfect. Li Canghai's eyes sparkled. Headmaster Canghai, I wonder why you've come to my Yinyang Peak. Feng Yinyang asked at the right time. Li Canghai immediately withdrew his gaze and revealed a gentle smile. Feng Yinyang, I've watched you grow up ever since my brother took you in as a disciple. Feng Yinyang raised his eyebrows, but still nodded and said, Headmaster Canghai is like an elder to me. Today, I'm here to take back what belongs to Yushan Academy. Nephew, you won't make things difficult for me, right? Li Canghai smiled. Feng Yinyang's expression changed and he frowned. Headmaster Canghai, I naturally dare not refuse your request. However, Yan Chuan is an honored guest personally appointed by my master. If you want to use force, I have no choice but to. Ha ha ha, nephew, you worry too much. Why would I break the rules of your South faction? Naturally, I won't use force. Everything is negotiable. Li Canghai laughed. Feng Yinyang nodded. Then, Li Canghai looked at Yan Chuan. Chapter 722. This must be the Hades Emperor of the East Divine Continent's Great Jin Dynasty. Li Canghai looked at Yan Chuan. Indeed. Greetings, Headmaster Canghai. Yan Chuan nodded. A painting, the goddess of sorrowful tears, defeated Sima Yuntian, forced Mohina Dojin to retreat, established the Great Jin Dynasty, and destroyed the Great Winged Heaven School. Heroes indeed come from the young. Li Canghai smiled. You're too polite. Yan Chuan said indifferently. However, Hades Emperor, you should know that the will of the ravenous wolf star belongs to my Yushan Academy. Can you return it? Li Canghai smiled. Li Canghai's words were polite, but they went straight to the point. Yan Chuan smiled and shook his head. Headmaster Canghai, you're wrong. The will of the ravenous wolf star is bestowed by the stars. How can it belong to your Yushan Academy? Who can say for certain that the stars belong to anyone? Humph, Yan Chuan, you're twisting words and forcing logic. That little bastard isn't something you can have. Ming Lingtian said coldly. I'll say it again. He belongs to my Great Jin Dynasty. Yan Chuan said coldly. Ha 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 ha. Hades Emperor, how about this? Since you've also cultivated destiny, why don't you have a bet with my Yushan Academy? If you lose, you'll give me the wolf child. How about it? Li Canghai smiled. Headmaster Canghai, there's no need to reason with him. It's yours. Ming Lingtian shouted. Li Canghai shook his head. Lingtian, don't you understand what Hades Emperor means? Ming Lingtian raised an eyebrow. Li Canghai shook his head. I've been talking about the will of the stars, and Yan Chuan has been talking about the wolf child. The two can be separated, but they can't be separated. The will of the stars is mine, but the wolf child is his. When the two become one, it's impossible to say who it belongs to. Oh. Ming Lingtian understood. Hades Emperor, what do you think of my suggestion? Li Canghai smiled. Oh. A bet? What do you want to bet? Yan Chuan smiled. Li Canghai was a sensible person. At the very least, he understood what the two of them were arguing about. Chess. What do you think? Li Canghai smiled. Chess. Hee hee, so what if I win? Yan Chuan asked. If you win, I'll take everyone and leave. From now on, I won't interfere with greed's will. Li Songhai said confidently. Yan Chuan shook his head. Academy Master Songhai, that's a good plan. The greed wolf was originally a subject of my great Zhen. Why should we use him as a wager? It's like betting on your Yueshan Academy. If you win, you'll give it to me. If you lose, I won't touch it. Tell me, is this a bet? Yan Chuan said disdainfully. Then what do you want? Li Songhai asked in a low voice. The greed wolf is a subject of my great Zhen. I won't use him as a wager. If I lose, I'll strip the greed wolf of his astral will and give it to you. If I win, I only want 10 slaps from Ming Ling Tian, a middle void realm feng shui master. What do you think? Yan Chuan said coldly. Bastard, what did you say? Ming Ling Tian was furious. Li Songhai narrowed his eyes. There's more than one wolf child in the world. I don't believe I can't find a second one. Since Hades' emperor has spoken, let's do it. Academy Master Songhai. Ming Ling Tian exclaimed. I'll have to trouble you. Li Songhai looked at Ming Ling Tian. Ming Ling Tian looked at Li Songhai, his expression changing. Finally, he nodded. The wager was agreed, but Yan Chuan felt that something was fishy. The bet just now was just Yan Chuan's probing, but this probing allowed Yan Chuan to see too many unreasonable things. Why was Ming Ling Tian so obedient? It was just a astral will. Li Kanglin only needed to guide another star to get it. It wasn't precious to the South sect. How could it compare to Ming Ling Tian's dignity? Li Songhai was the younger brother of the South sect master, but he felt like swallowing his pride. Yan Chuan had an inexplicable feeling that there was a great conspiracy hidden in the feng shui southern sect. Chapter 723. Yin Yang Hall was surrounded by a large number of cultivators. Feng shui disciples, outer sect disciples, and even some sect masters of middle sects were there to witness the battle. Yan Chuan sat at the center of the crowd on a chessboard. Feng Yinyang, Huo Guang, and Tan Lang stood behind him. Din Songhai, please. Yan Chuan said. Ha, Hades Emperor, you're mistaken. I'm not playing against you, but my student, Ming Lu. Li Songhai pointed at Ming Lu. Ming Lu stepped forward. Contempt was written all over his face. Ming Lu. Yan Chuan narrowed his eyes. Din Songhai, do you think that I, Yan Chuan, am not qualified to play against you? Yan Chuan said coldly. Logically speaking, the two sides should be facing each other, but Li Songhai had only sent one disciple. Wasn't this looking down on Yan Chuan in front of everyone? Do I need my teacher to deal with you? I'm more than enough. Ming Lu said disdainfully. You? Yan Chuan sneered. Other than losing to Sima Yuntian, I, Ming Lu, have never lost a game in Yushan Academy. My teacher has never fought, so you're not qualified to make him fight. Ming Lu said proudly. Looking at Ming Lu, Yan Chuan suddenly smiled and said to Li Songhai, Din Songhai, aren't you afraid that Ming Lu will lose? Ming Lu has received my teachings. He won't lose. Li Songhai said confidently. Ha ha ha, you're not afraid, but I am. Yan Chuan laughed. What are you worried about? Li Songhai frowned. I'm worried that some people won't admit defeat after losing, and will twist words to twist the situation. Yan Chuan said coldly. Yan Chuan, what did you say? Are you saying that we won't admit defeat? Ming Lu shouted. Yan Chuan ignored Ming Lu and looked at Li Songhai. I guarantee it in the name of Yushan Academy. Li Songhai said confidently. Yushan Academy? How much was it worth? Why should I believe you? Li Songhai, if you're not sincere, then forgive me, Yan Chuan, for not keeping you company. Yan Chuan stood up immediately. How much was the Yueshan Academy worth? Li Canghai's face darkened. The disciples of the various sects looked at Yan Chuan in astonishment. Li Canghai's words were a guarantee. How could Yan Chuan be so arrogant? It wasn't that Yan Chuan was arrogant, but that he didn't want to suffer for nothing. Why are you, Li Canghai, superior to me, Yan Chuan? Although Yan Chuan had a higher chance of winning if it was Ming Lu, as an emperor, he was never afraid of facing a strong enemy. At this moment, Yan Chuan represented the great Jin dynasty. Although it wasn't very famous in the south, there would be a day when the great Jin dynasty would resound throughout the world. Yan Chuan, are you afraid of losing? Li Canghai said coldly. I've said it before. I'm not afraid of losing. I'm just worried that the reputation of Yueshan Academy will make me waste my time. Yan Chuan said. Bastard Yan Chuan. Ming Lingtian shouted. Humph, Ming Lingtian, this is between me and Li Canghai. It's none of your business. Wipe your face clean and get beaten up later. Yan Chuan shouted at Ming Lingtian. You. Ming Lingtian was so angry that his face turned red. Li Canghai looked at Yan Chuan coldly. He knew that Yan Chuan was difficult to deal with. At this moment, more and more people gathered in the square of Yin Yang Palace. I'll vouch for Dean Canghai. An expert shouted. I'll vouch for Dean Canghai too. 9 voices came from the crowd. Yan Chuan looked over. 9 experts stepped forward. They are the sect leaders of the 9 middle sects in the southern divine continent. Feng Yin Yang explained in a low voice. Chapter 724. 9 sect leaders. Yan Chuan smiled. Yan Chuan, I'll vouch for Li Canghai as well. How about that? Li Canghai isn't someone who goes back on his word. A voice came from the Yin Yang Hall. Everyone looked over and saw an elder in white. Meng Ziqiu. Li Canghai's pupils shrank as he looked at Meng Ziqiu in surprise. Dean Canghai, nice to meet you. Meng Ziqiu smiled. Although Li Canghai was surprised by Meng Ziqiu's appearance, he suppressed his surprise. Thank you, Dean Meng. Li Canghai smiled. Meng Ziqiu nodded, then looked at Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan looked around. Meng Ziqiu, the leader of the 9 middle sects. With a group of people vouching for him, the situation was different. Previously, Li Canghai had sent a junior to fight Yan Chuan. He had looked down on Yan Chuan. But now, with the guarantee of the top 10 sects, he had elevated Yan Chuan's status. He would no longer be slighted by Yan Chuan. Although there was contempt, if Yan Chuan won, he would take advantage of his elevated status and severely damage the image of the Yueshan Academy. Since you're all vouching for me, Yan Chuan will trust Yueshan Academy this time. Please. Yan Chuan sat down again. Ming Lu looked at Li Canghai, who nodded. Ming Lu sat down as well. Other than Sima Yuntian, you've never been defeated? Do you know that Sima Yuntian was defeated by me? Yan Chuan smiled. You only beat him in calligraphy. That chess match was a draw between Yifeng and Sima Yuntian. Ming Lu said disdainfully. I remember that you wanted to kill me in White Wolf City. In the end, I forgave you and didn't kill you. Why do you keep bothering me? Yan Chuan looked at Ming Lu coldly. Ming Lu snorted coldly. Pa. Yan Chuan placed his piece. Heaven origin. Ha ha ha, you also know how to play chess. You've dirted the word, chess. Ming Lu said in disdain. The first move, falling heaven essence. Everyone was similarly pessimistic. Even Meng Ziqiu frowned. Only Li Songhai narrowed his eyes and looked at Yan Chuan in surprise. The way of monarch chess. No, it must be a coincidence. Li Songhai muttered. Pa. 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 Yan Chuan placed his pieces extremely quickly, forcing Ming Lu to do the same. As soon as Ming Lu made his move, Yan Chuan followed suit. He didn't even give Ming Lu a chance to catch his breath. Smack. 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 The two of them quickly placed their pieces, faster and faster. Yan Chuan did not have a good impression of Ming Lu, so he did not hold back at all. Why does this chessboard look like it's in a mess? Yeah, it's fine if Yan Chuan doesn't know how to play chess, but isn't Ming Lu supposed to be undefeated in Yushan Academy? What kind of game is this? Are they both lousy chess pieces? Strange voices came from all around. Only Meng Ziqiu, Li Songhai, and a few others understood that Ming Lu's moves were completely guided by Yan Chuan. They weren't even on the same level. Even the two Dean were shocked to see Yan Chuan place his pieces again and again. What powerful chess skills! Back then, when he let Yifeng and Sima Yuntian play, it wasn't that Yan Chuan wasn't good at chess, but that he didn't want to. Meng Ziqiu exclaimed. Smack! Smack! 2 hours later, Ming Lu's eyes were bloodshot as he stared at the chessboard. Was he completely lost? It was as if he was in a battlefield, surrounded by people who were trying to kill him from all directions. Chapter 725. Impossible. Ming Lu's expression grew crazier as he placed his piece. Clap. Yan Chuan placed another piece. No, impossible. Did you betray me? Ming Lu stared at the chessboard, stuttering. Ming Lu, you've lost. Stop. Li Songhai smiled bitterly. Shut up. I haven't lost, I haven't lost. Ming Lu roared at the chessboard. Shut up. Was that for Li Songhai? Li Songhai's expression darkened. Unfilial son, how can you speak to your teacher like that? Ming Lingtian shouted. Li Songhai shook his head. Pull Ming Lu away. He's lost his mind. Ming Lingtian nodded and pulled Ming Lu away. Boom. Ming Lu broke free from Ming Lingtian and roared, Bastard, don't stop me. Ming Lingtian's expression froze. His son was cursing him in front of so many people. Clap. Ming Lu placed his piece. Ha ha ha, let's see what else you can do. Ming Lu roared. Yan Chuan smiled coldly as he grabbed the black piece. Clap. With this move, Yan Chuan was once again in the 9 and 5 position. Mine, mine. Ah, bastard, don't. Ming Lu stared at the chessboard as if he had gone mad. Pfft. Ming Lu spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted. Everyone stared blankly at the scene. Seriously injuring the opponent in a game of chess. What kind of joke was this? Lu, Ming Lingtian picked up Ming Lu in panic. Li Songhai stared coldly at Yan Chuan. Hades Emperor, are you purposely targeting Ming Lu? Making him vomit blood and injure his mind? Destroying his soul? Yan Chuan tossed the piece in his hand and stood up. Can't afford to lose. Li Songhai's expression darkened. Ha ha ha, good. Yan Chuan. Good chess skills. Your chess skills are even stronger than Sima Yuntian's. You've hidden so much in the East Divine Continent's Heaven's Gift Conference. The will of the ravenous wolf star. You can stay here. Let's go. Li Songhai said coldly. Wait. Yan Chuan shouted again. Everyone looked coldly at Yan Chuan. The 10 great sects are acting as guarantors for you. Could it be that, as I expected, Headmaster Songhai is really going to renege on the bet? Yan Chuan said coldly. Li Canghai narrowed his eyes and stared coldly at Yan Chuan. Everyone's expression changed as they recalled the bet from before. Apart from no longer pursuing the ravenous wolf star's will, he also gave Ming Lingtian 10 slaps. Yan Chuan, don't go too far. Ming Lingtian shouted angrily. Greedy wolf, come here. Yan Chuan shouted behind him. Yes. Tan Lang walked closer. This is the person who called you little bastard many times. We have already agreed with him that you will give him 10 slaps as punishment. Yan Chuan said. Yes. Tan Lang said respectfully. Ming Lingtian's expression was extremely unsightly as he watched Tan Lang walk over step by step. Headmaster Canghai. Ming Lingtian looked at Li Canghai for help. Li Canghai's eyes flickered as if he was about to explode. However, he clenched his fists tightly as if he was suppressing something. He gently shook his head at Ming Lingtian, as though he was telling him not to cause any more trouble. Ming Lingtian's expression turned extremely unsightly when he didn't receive Li Canghai's help. Ming Lingtian, stand still and don't move. Tan Lang's slap is coming. Yan Chuan said in a low voice. All around, countless pairs of eyes widened, as if they couldn't believe what they were seeing. Ming Lingtian, a second-generation disciple of the Southern Feng Shui sect, a Middle Void Realm expert, stood still and let a Chi State brat slap him. Was this real? How was this possible? Slap. Tan Lang did not hold back at all. He slapped Ming Lingtian's face hard. 5 fingerprints were left behind. With this slap, almost everyone's face twitched, as if they couldn't believe what they were seeing. That was Ming Lingtian. He slapped a feng shui master in the Southern Feng Shui sect. Moreover, he did it in front of so many people. Was there something wrong with my eyes? Slap. Another slap came. Ming Lingtian gritted his teeth and glared at Tan Lang. Slap. Chapter 726. Ming Lingtian glared fiercely at Greed with wide eyes. I dare you to hit me again. Ming Lingtian said coldly. Slap. Tan Lang did not hold back. The experts standing around were all shocked. This scene was too bizarre. Ming Lingtian did not move. He was Li Kanglin's disciple. His status was on par with the sect leaders of the middle sects, and his cultivation was at the middle void realm. Even so, he allowed a Chi State cultivator to slap him in the face. It was not that he could not fight back, but that he could fight back, but he did not fight back. Slap. Tan Lang was untamed. He did not care about Ming Lingtian's gaze, nor did he hold back. Slap. Tan Lang's hand was red. It was clear how hard the slap was. Not far away, Yan Chuan's face was dark. He was not excited, but he felt a sense of unease. Feng Yinyang frowned. He could not bear it, but he did not say anything. Slap. Finally, the last slap landed. Ming Lingtian was shaking all over, as if he was about to explode, but he held it in. Li Canghai looked at Ming Lingtian and nodded in satisfaction. He turned to Yan Chuan and said, Southern Order. Humph, insulting the Southern Temple leader is provoking the Southern Feng Shui sect. Let's see how long you can be so arrogant. Let's go. Li Canghai swung his sleeves and walked in front. Headmaster Canghai. Meng Ziqiu suddenly called out. Li Canghai paused and looked at Meng Ziqiu. Did you receive the letter I sent you? Meng Ziqiu asked. Letter? Li Canghai raised an eyebrow. The letter I asked Li Kanglin to pass to you. It's a message from the 100 Saints of the Julu Academy. It's related to the 4 academies. Did you receive it? Meng Ziqiu asked in a low voice. Li Songhai's pupils shrank. Surprise flashed in his eyes. But Li Songhai hid it well. He quickly recovered and said, I received the letter, but I didn't have time to read it. Meng Ziqiu nodded lightly and said, since that's the case, I'll wait for your news. Li Songhai nodded and led the others away. Before he left, Ming Lingtian glared at Yan Chuan and then glared at Feng Yinyang. The battle ended without a trace. Yi Yi and the others continued to send off the guests. Yan Chuan, Feng Yinyang, and Meng Ziqiu returned to the Yinyang Palace. Headmaster Meng, what happened? Yan Chuan asked with a frown. Meng Ziqiu looked at Yan Chuan and revealed a trace of surprise. Hell Emperor, you are really sharp. Everything is unusual. Headmaster Meng, do you know something? Yan Chuan asked with a frown. Feng Yinyang nodded and looked at Meng Ziqiu. Meng Ziqiu shook his head and said to Yan Chuan, I know it won't do you any good. Take care of yourselves. With that, Meng Ziqiu stopped playing chess and walked slowly to his courtyard. Yan Chuan and Feng Yinyang were left frowning. Take care of yourselves. Hell Emperor, don't worry. This is my Feng Shui Southern sect. I'm Master's favorite disciple. As long as I'm here, no one can hurt you. Feng Yinyang said with certainty. Yan Chuan shook his head. Mr. Feng, Meng Ziqiu's words aren't groundless. I also feel that something is wrong. I would like to ask for your help. Yan Chuan looked at Feng Yinyang. What is it, Hell Emperor? I'll be staying at the Yinyang Peak for more than a year. Therefore, I would like to ask for your permission to set up a formation around the peak for self-protection. Yan Chuan said solemnly, you're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.